Good evening, everybody, and welcome into the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals as we are back for round number 4 of this series. We welcome you in tonight to the Five Flag Speedways. We take a little bit of a trip out to another short track as we've seen a couple of times throughout this season. Here we are in Pensacola, Florida, for the running of tonight's race. Blake McCandless, Justin Prince will be here momentarily, along with Zach Johnson down in the virtual production trailer here on STN. Right now, you can see on your screen qualifying starting to commence as these drivers will try to put down their fastest time for what's going to be a little bit of a change in format from what we've seen in previous iterations of this series. So for tonight, we do have heats on the docket for you. 2 30-lap heats. 10 will transfer from each to the main feature. Caution flag laps will not count in them. And then, of course, later on, we will eventually advance to our main feature, of which 125 laps will run. Caution flag laps will count against the total in that. So first is qualifying, and it looks like for the moment Will Norton holding down the quickest time that we have seen so far tonight, mostly in the practice sessions. You were looking around that 16.6 or 16.7 bracket. Norton right now 16.623, just over Michael Cozy Jr. right now, who holds a 6.55 for the time being. But it's sure to be an interesting night. We've seen 2 completely different races our last 2 times out. A couple of weeks ago, we visited another short track in New Smyrna. 18 cautions was the spell of that night, so it was a very long night, a lot of attrition for these drivers. And then, of course, we go to the Auto Club Speedway last week, and it was about polar opposite. I think we had 1 or 2 cautions in that race. So total different shakeups in the makeup of this race. Of course, here at the Five Flag Speedway, half a mile, 4 turns, very little banking, so you have to imagine that the quarters are going to be close, and the drivers are going to race each other very hard. There may be a little bit of contact involved. But looking at the qualifying times right now, this field, one of the great things about FTF, whether it's the GNS series presented by Bar Visuals or the Cup series that runs on Sunday nights on Bottom Split, the competition has been there. Ryan Doucette will take down the pole by 2/1000ths of a second over Will Norton, but the spread throughout this field is very, very small. Ryan Doucette in first, a 16.621, and you go back to David Schildhouse, for example, all the way back in 35th, 16.918, so very small separation in this field. But we'll go ahead and take a look at your full field rundown for heat number 1 of the Epic Gaming Network 150. It'll be Ryan Doucette. He took our fastest time in qualifying. He will start alongside in heat number 1 Michael Cozy Jr., who eventually ended up in 3rd after getting bumped out by Will Norton. 3rd goes to Christian Peterson. 4th will be Adam Sweet. Jacob Fisher will roll off in the 5th position. 6th will go to Nathan Rabideau. 7th was Kyle Ely. 8th is Austin Johnson. Aaron Smith will start in 9th, and Ben Billard will round out the top 10. 11th goes to Matthew Zwack. 12th is Brian Tedeschi. 13th to Gary Waterworth. 14th is Cyrus Goringe. 15th to Tristan Hagenstein. 16th is Brett Punkari. 17th, Jake Poulin. 18th, David Schildhouse. 19th, Andy Margot. 20th is Brandon Wilkinson, who did not put down a time. Of course, Justin Malillo will roll off 21st as well. Is he adminning? No, he's actually out here on the racetrack as well. So as we mentioned, we'll have 1 of 2 heats that will roll off here in just a couple of moments. 30 laps in each. Of course, there is a time limit of 30 minutes should that come into play. And the top 10 from each heat will transfer over to the main. After we run these 2 heats, we'll have a 25-lap Consi 1. Just 1 driver out of that Consi will transfer to the 125-lap main feature for you tonight. Let's take a look at our track facts just before we get rolling off for the green flag. 69 and partly cloudy skies here in Pensacola, Florida. 72-degree track temperature, 69 in the air. Very nice weather here in Pensacola, Florida. Winds to the north at 3 miles per hour and not too humid out here. So very good weather for these drivers. A lot of grip out here, being that low 69 degrees. Ryan Doucette going to get us started on the front row in just a moment, and we are ready to get rolling here as Justin Prince has just hopped up in the booth just in time for us to take the green flag.
Going to be some fun action, to say the very least, tonight. It's going to be the question mark of who's going to be able to keep their cars clean and in track position to be able to lock themselves into the feature tonight. It's expected to be some bottom feeding action, though, for a majority of the short ones, but that top line may come into play as the rubber builds up.
It might, as we see a battle there side by side. This is for position number 5, nearly into the outside wall off of turn 4 is Kyle Ely there, who runs in the top lane, or excuse me there, that is Adam Sweet, who's falling back a couple of positions. Ely able to make his way on by. Now Johnson and Sweet side by side. Sweet stuck in that second line trying to make it work. We saw, and even I was talking with a couple of drivers just before we took the green flag, that middle line, it may not be that bad for some short run speed, but like you said, Justin, I think that's a groove that eventually over time may come into play, especially in 3 and 4.
It's seen a lot of the times when it comes to late models in particular, where you want to start at the bottom, but eventually you make the moves up towards the top. Expect that to be the case when it comes to these NASCAR Xfinity Series cars for tonight for the Grand National Series. But look towards the front. Michael Cozy Jr. providing some pressure on Ryan Doucette. Currently, both of those drivers running in the 16.7s. Doucette quicker by only 5/1000ths of a second. Cozy Jr. in that 99. So far, have had some great races. That 99 coming off a strong week last run as Cozy Jr.'s gone.
Cozy Jr. goes around here on the front straightaway. Caution is out, and it looked like there was no help there for Michael Cozy Jr., who I was just about to mention how well that car was rotating through on the bottom, getting really close to that white line on the apron. And unfortunately, I think he was turning a little bit too well there, was Michael Cozy Jr. We'll take one more look at it. Unprovoked, or at least wasn't helped in this spin, but you could see just a classic case of gets back to the throttle just a little too soon, and around she goes.
Just looped it around. That is the perfect timing for a commentator's curse if I've ever seen one. And a Michael Cozy Jr. moment, to say the very least. The people over at Wind Valley 8820 are probably going to be very entertained from that spin. But man, it's so simple to lose the back end if you push too hard on the gas here at this racetrack, since it is a track where you can burn up that right rear tire and get fairly loose as the race goes on, since it's a fairly abrasive racing surface. I think that's just what Cozy Jr. got bit on there.
It did. And when you say everybody's going to have fun there with Michael Cozy Jr., he is going to have a very tall task ahead of him all the way back here in the 21st position. Going to have to very quickly work his way forward through the field. We were able to get through 7 laps there. We'll restart on lap number 8. Of course, caution laps are not counting in these heats, so if you wanted to come down, service your car, do anything like that, repair some damage, you will have the opportunity to do so without the added penalty of going down and losing a couple of laps. Now, there is one thing that is going to be a little bit different here tonight. We saw it last week in both the GNS and the Cup Series, is the addition of the choose cone for this race. So drivers are going to have the ability to choose either the low lane or the high lane on the racetrack, depending on where they line up. And you'll see as they come around here on the front straightaway exactly where that choose cone is. You see Ryan Doucette, he's obviously going to choose the bottom. Is that the choose line right there? It is the G on the high side, and that is indeed the case. You can see the split in the drivers, a few going low, a few going high.
And I think several drivers may have ran over that letter, so that's going to shuffle several drivers, I think, towards the back as a result here. That's going to lose a few different drivers some valuable track position, I believe.
It is, and actually they're going to throw the yellow flag just to go back, look at the replay, and make sure that nobody ran over the cone. Of course, the penalty for doing so is you go all the way to the end of the longest line, and they'll take a look at who exactly ran over that cone. Right now, Nathan Rabideau, he was all the way back in 6th. He's the first driver that will line up on the outside, so this is kind of interesting. We get to see more so at Auto Club. It seemed like we scattered or went every other driver. For the most part here, it looks like, well, you want to be on the bottom, obviously, but when you're in about 6th or 7th, do you want to take that risk to go to the high side? You see here Ryan Doucette able to get on the throttle. The green flag is out, and look at Nathan Rabideau. He's able to get down, so what a great call for him. He leapfrogs about 4 cars, gets back down to the bottom, so a very nice call there for the 93.
I think a few people are going to take some notes on that and be able to take the risk as long as they feel comfortable with that. For others, though, it's not working out as great as I think they were hoping for. Aaron Smith II not going to find too much of a hole right until Matthews whack. Now it's Gary Waterworth who is on the bubble position at the moment, with Brandon Wilkinson providing some pressure from behind.
That is the battle for the transfer around that 10th position. Brandon Wilkinson on the bottom. One car stuck on the outside line. It is Ben Billard who may just fall into that final spot that is moving on. We'll come across this time. We're a third of the way through heat number 1, and Billard is into the outside wall as now they go side by side. Brandon Wilkinson now ahead by just a nose, looking to get into that transfer spot.
He has a teammate coming up and through too. Yes, that is Brian Tedeschi, a familiar name in esports and NASCAR in particular over the NASCAR heat side. But the caution flag is out, and it's one of the drivers who got caught before for the choose cone. Kyle Align, along with Malo and Brent Pancari, involved in trouble in the front stretch.
And another case of another driver getting loose off of turn 4. I remember talking to a couple of drivers before we got this race started.
Oh, and the wrecking down the front stretch. The 29 just ran over the back end of the 009 machine.
And more drama happening here. Is you're exactly right, getting just going under caution. So we're going to have a couple of incidents here, and I think that was more a case of perhaps some technical issues there for Tedeschi. It looked like maybe some type of internet issue or something where he drove through the car that was in front of him. But nevertheless, a lot to try and dissect here under caution for the second time in heat number 1. You'll see here off the corner, this is something that was pretty common when I was talking to a couple of these drivers before we got started in this heat, was how loose the car is, especially there off of turn 4. Banking change, this car really likes to spin around there, or at least rotate pretty well off of turn 4. You see Justin Malillo, he'll collect a couple of cars with him. And then, of course, after that, you mentioned already under the caution flag, everybody just trying to catch back up to the pace car, and we ran into more issues.
Yeah, technical issues in turn for the 29 machine. You'll watch right here where I don't think he realizes what's happening. He can't see what's happening on his screen. You see, he doesn't realize it until he locks up the brakes and realizes, oh boy, I just hit somebody. That's why he's got no damage in that situation. A rough break and a rough moment that ends up collecting significant damage for the 009 and damages the right side of Wilkinson's car.
Heavy damage here for some of these drivers. Now, of course, at a half-mile track, we saw at New Smyrna, damage was definitely not a detriment to moving forward through the field. And of course, with these features, this isn't like real life where you run in your heats, you get damaged, you either have to come back down pit road and try to fix your race car before you eventually get moved on to the main feature. Of course, here in iRacing, that's all done for you. So you don't have to carry this car with you all night. So that is a nice addition there. But once again, we work through the choose cone. Pace truck is on pit road. Ryan Doucette still in control of the field. He's going to take off here and get us back under green for lap number 13. Nathan Rabideau on the inside of Christian Peterson. They're trying to duke it out for the second spot.
Remember, CP, when it came to the Cars Esport Tour, having a lot of success here, especially in the super late models. He's going to be somebody that's going to be difficult to try and beat tonight. And you can tell that that top line, he knows how to drive it, even with this type of race car. It's just the fact that it can be difficult to clear on by for several laps here at the circuit.
It is hard to get back down to the bottom, no doubt about it. You see Christian Peterson still there on the high side, and there is not anywhere that he can try to get down behind him. He may try to slot himself in just behind this battle for third now as Austin Johnson goes on by. Peterson may try to get back down to the bottom. He's able to do so in front of Jacob Fisher there running in fifth. Right now, side-by-side battle, though, for the transfer spot. Ben Billard on the high side trying to get around Gary Waterworth. That is the battle for 10th.
Waterworth, though, looks like he's a little bit quicker here. You also have Tedeschi's boxed in on the top line. But look at Michael Cozy Jr. He's back into the fray as the 29 hit the wall.
Michael Cozy Jr., you knew he was going to be competitive if he was going to be out here very quickly, already up from the 21st spot after that initial spin. Brought out our first caution and is already back up to 13th as Ben Billard gets into the wall. Cozy will go on by. He's now in P12. He's got David Schildhouse in front of him. And, of course, Gary Waterworth, that 10th spot, about 2 car lengths in front of the Schildhouse machine.
I think he's going to have to be very patient here. Cozy Jr. obviously has the pace. It's just a matter of waiting for the right moment to poke underneath. And that can be very tight when you know you don't want to give up the bottom line here as the preferred group when you're single file.
It's hard to, as they are now side by side right in front of them for 10th. Adam Sweet on the top side. Now he holds 10th. Here comes David Schildhouse to the bottom. He's got a little bit of a run, but Sweet able to get that run off the top side of the racetrack. Schildhouse to the bottom once again. He's got a complete trunk full of Michael Cozy Jr. Now Sweet's in the wall. Schildhouse goes around hard on the inside. Pit wall. Caution flag is out. And Schildhouse, an innocent victim. I tell you what, I can't think of any sim racer out here that has just not had luck, whether it's FTF, no matter what series he's been running in. Nowhere he could go, nothing that he could do. Adam Sweet into the wall, door slam Schildhouse, and that just sends him barreling into the inside wall.
And significant damage, absolutely, but when you get too hard on the gas, it could end up overloading the right front tire and pushes you up the racetrack even when you have the loose condition of the setup for tonight. That looked to be the case where he just kept plowing right up to that fence. No time for Schildhouse to even try and react in that situation, and he gets pinballed around down that front straightaway off several cars. Cozy Jr. also picks up some damage. A couple others also picking up some front nose damage.
And again, this is much later in the race. 10 laps to go right now. It'll be 9 when we get the green flag once again. So being back here is going to be very difficult for Schildhouse, who I believe when timing and scoring refreshes here, when the laps start counting once again, he'll be back in 20th. And obviously, you can see how damaged he is right there. So likely a scenario where Schildhouse is going to have to try and work his way through the consolation that may be happening a little bit after heat number 2. But up front, Ryan Doucette, Nathan Rabideau in second. Austin Johnson runs in third. Christian Peterson, Jacob Fisher round out your top 5. Brandon Wilkinson runs in 6th. 7th goes to Aaron Smith. Matthews Wack runs in 8th. Gary Waterworth 9th. And, of course, David Schildhouse at the moment is scored in 10th. We imagine that, obviously, that will change once we get back going under the green flag. But Adam Sweet, Michael Cozy Jr., they are the two who, especially for Cozy, has been on the march forward, and it'll be interesting to see if Cozy can get that 99 in as we take a look here at the choose cone results.
Looking like a majority of the drivers electing to choose the bottom side of the racetrack. And one of the drivers just involved in the incident, Adam Sweet, saying, you know what, I'm going to take a risk. He chose the top line after smacking the fence on said line. That's going to be intriguing to see if he can try and hold on here.
It is. He'll restart now from the 8th position traditionally, so he moves forward about 2 spots, trying to go up there to the top side. Green flag out once again. Doucette able to scurry away. They go side by side. Behind them is almost into Peterson goes Nathan Rabideau. They go side by side down the back straightaway as they continue to try to sort things out. The 93 up the racetrack. Close battle up here for second. Equally as close back there for the transfer spot.
Yeah, that transfer spot still being held on by Sweet, but Cozy Jr. has the better momentum on the bottom side of the racetrack. Cozy Jr.'s teammate, though, among the drivers under attack as well. You have the Space Station racing machine of Jacob Fisher now on the move on the bottom side. Waterworth has been shuffled out from the bottom line. Gary the Snail up the track.
Waterworth may have to get back down in line behind Jacob Fisher, who now moves forward in 6th. But here comes a big sin on the bottom from the NOS Energy machine of Matthew Zwack. That's a battle for 8th. Cozy has made his way already in the top 10. And Waterworth going to get turned here by the 18. Caution flag flown as Waterworth able to do a pretty good job in collecting it. It may even give him his spot back. But that was, obviously, that was just hard short track racing right there. The 18 thought he had a rite of passage there to the inside. Waterworth was there, contact, and the 12 does a nice little 90-degree slide here through turn 1.
And I think Waterworth actually got a little bit loose too on top of things, Blake, right in front of him. So I think that had major attribution to that. You see right there, it gets loose, tries to save it. Swacker's already trying to get underneath, not realizing that he was getting loose, and he gets a lot more looser after that.
Definitely gets a little bit looser. A nice save there from Waterworth, all things considered. Does a little bit of a drift there. Uses the outside wall to try and collect that race car. Does a good job in doing so, but enough for iRacing to trigger the caution flag that is controlled by the sim. As we'll take one more look at it here. Just beside Michael Cozy Jr. riding on board right here. You can see the contact happen in front. And a very narrow miss. Hard on the binders was the, I believe, the 06 of Aaron Smith to miss that wreck, and he'll line it back up once again behind Michael Cozy Jr. right there. So I believe when we restart again, this is pending where the drivers go when they make the decision on whether they're going to go high or low with the choose cone. At least for now, approaching that cone, it's going to be Doucette, Peterson, Rabideau 3rd, Wilkinson 4th, Austin Johnson in 5th, Jacob Fisher 6th, Matthew Zwack 7th, Michael Cozy Jr. in 8th, Aaron Smith the 2nd and 9th, and then Brian Tedeschi in 10th. Tristan Hagenstein, the first driver on the outside looking in, and of course, there's a lot that can be shuffled up here with where everybody's going to go with the choose cone. Doucette, Peterson, Rabideau going to take the bottom. First taker on the outside is that car that is 4th in line.
Boy, that may have been, might have, I think, been either Tedeschi or Hagenstein. No, it's Wilkinson rather that chose that.
Next
Still 2
time.
to go. Yes, it is 2 to go.
Yeah,
I think they thought. I think Wilkinson thought it was going to be 2 to go as well.
Yeah, I think that, well, the way they, they put their car on the bottom of the track, it kind of threw me off there. But either way, I don't think it's going to change what they decide here. Doucette, and I would imagine Christian Peterson very quickly going to show themselves on the bottom. Rabideau. Okay, so they were just delaying it by a lap. Same decision here by everybody. As next 2 cars go to the high side, they'll gain a couple of spots. Will both Brandon Wilkinson and Austin Johnson. Interesting to see who's going to be those late takers on the high side. Brian Tedeschi, he's going to move forward from 11th up to 6th, though. Interesting moves here. This is why the choose cone is great. This is why we love it. Shout out to the FTF admins who make it possible here in iRacing to do it. Restart. 5 laps to go. Ryan Doucette up front. Top 10. Transfer on. Green flag is out.
And a tire spin that time for Christian Peterson, in fact. But will someone clear on by is going to be the major thing to be able to hold on to the track position. We're about to find out.
Right now around that transfer position, Michael Cozy Jr. making his way forward. They're side-by-side for 3rd. They're side-by-side behind them for 5th. But right now, Cozy hanging on to that final transfer spot. Tristan Hagenstein now trying to do his best on the top side to hang on to it. 3 laps to go this time by.
Bit of a squeeze going that time against the front straightaway wall there as Tedeschi trying to really get himself clear of Jacob Fisher. That decision to use the choose cone looking like a smart one right now. Just needs to find a hole. Might have found one. Yes, indeed, as Cozy Jr. still holding on to ninth. Hagenstein in 10th.
Hagenstein now back down to the bottom, 2 laps to go. He has about a car length up over Aaron Smith. That final transfer spot, a big block thrown in front of them. Matthews whack on Michael Cozy Jr. We'll have to see if he's willing to do that once again. A white flag this time out. Cozy almost into the back as whack. He sends him up the racetrack. Here comes Cozy around for the 8th position. Behind them, Hagenstein holding on to 10th. Is he going to be able to hold on? It looks like he's going to be able to do so. Doucette will take the checkered flag. Second goes to Brandon Wilkinson, but back there for the transfer spot, Tristan Hagenstein will be the final driver to hang on. Aaron Smith on the outside, first car that is going to miss it here in heat number 1.
And some smart decisions overall for some of the drivers to choose the outside line there, because that ended up getting Hagenstein in. He was outside the top 10 originally, as well as Tedeschi in that situation. It's going to be interesting how this run goes this time for the second heat.
We'll see how much everybody learned from heat number 1. We'll look forward to the lineup here for heat number 2. Will Norton, Connor Horn will make up your front row. David Walsh and Jordan Worth will start in row number 2. 5th will go to Michael Frisch. 6th will go to Spencer Preet. 7th, Lucas Plosel. 8th, rolling off is Ethan Quarter. 9th goes to Will Rogers, Jonathan Oates. Justin will round out the top 10.
Cosman Ineshu comes home in 11th position. Nate Stewart in 12th. Blake Reynolds in 13th position in the 62. Sean Butler will start at 14th. Chris Wentz starts in 15th position with Ryan Naraki in 16th. Williams and Painter start 17th, 18th. Clapper, Schwartz, along with Ethan Stuckwish, rounding out the 21 drivers.
'21 drivers once again, and everybody that is not moving on, obviously they'll have their opportunity to try to move forward in the consolation race. 25 laps for that one that will take place just after this one completes, as we work 5:37 p.m. local in sim time. As you see the sun continuing to set here off the exit of turn 4, create a little bit of a nice little sunset here on the front straightaway for all of the virtual fans who are not in the grandstands here at the Five Flags Speedway in Pensacola, Florida. Just looking forward to see, especially with the dropping temperatures. Actually, I was going to say dropping temperatures, but we've actually picked up a degree on the track temp, 73 degrees right now. Wind is still fairly calm at just 4 miles an hour. Will Norton going to be in control of the field? Is the pace truck going to move onto pit road? Connor Horn to his outside, and we'll see how long that we can keep it going here. Norton, great jump on the inside. He'll get us started here as they already go side by side for second. Walsh able to make the best of that third starting spot. Connor Horn in the bottom. They've sorted it out in the top 4. Right now, side-by-side battle for 5th with Jordan Worth, and now he's up the track 3 wide.
Oh, this could spell trouble here. Jordan Worth making a smart move of diving out of it. Bit of contact already, though. Oates in the wall.
Jonathan Oates in the wall as they went 3 wide on the front straightaway. Tight confines, but they're able to save it and keep it rolling right now. Sean Butler, he's also taking advantage of some of the chaos in front of him. He's moved forward a couple of spots, went from 14th up into 13th that last lap. But right now, Jordan Worth, such a great start for him. He rode off from 4th. He's already back to 10th. He's the last driver right now that is in that transfer position.
Gonna have to try and defend Chris Wentz and company here, as already Nate Stewart with some front nose damage, trying to wheel it on the outside line. With a decent amount of momentum as well to join this fight. It's going to be fun to see how these drivers are able to deal with the tire wear and try and keep the tires cool, as Sean Butler now with the squeeze on Nate Stewart.
Boom, Nate Stewart to the high side. They are racing very close right there as Stewart trying to pinch down Butler. Now he'll try to get back down to the bottom in front of Ryan Naraki, and he's going to be able to complete that move. So move Butler up to P12. Nate Stewart back to 13th, and it is not getting any easier for Stewart, who now is up the racetrack once again. He's going to lose a 13th spot here to Ryan Naraki, perhaps even one more to Tyler Williams. He has some damage on that Toyota on his nose, and I don't think that's helping him one bit.
And it's going to be concerning on the temps, I think, really, because the significant amount of damage there may raise his oil temps by at least 20 degrees more than some of these other drivers. So that's something he's going to have to manage here as this run progresses here. The longer the amount of green flag laps are turned here, to say the very least. But at the moment, Blake Reynolds doing a solid job in that 62 machine. Again, that is usually Kyle Riley's machine. We've seen how well that car was last week.
Yeah, it was Brian Mercurio who ended up taking the win in that machine at the Auto Club Speedway, and that is going to be their MO this season. They're going to try to get that 62, the Owners Championship here in the FTF GNS Series. So we'll see if that Bar Visuals machine can be up front. They've put some pretty good talent behind the wheel of that 62 race car. Right now, Blake Reynolds trying to do his best to make up for a 13th starting position. He's all the way up into 8th. But right now, still pretty tight there for 9th. And around that transfer spot, Cosman Ineshu right now running in 9th. Jordan Worth trying to make his way by for 10th. And, of course, Chris Wetz, Sean Butler just behind them, waiting to pounce and try to make their way through.
I think Butler's just waiting for the opportunity for the 71 to slip up. Right now, he's done a good job. So has Jordan Worth here, where all Jordan Worth needs to do is just save the tires, think about big picture. For Butler, he needs to get around the 71 at the minimum, because you never know when the caution's going to fly. You never know if you're going to get a chance to use the choose cone to get some track position. So at this point, I think Butler's just trying to back up the corner, wait for the run as there's the spin.
Spinning in the back of the pack, and the caution flag is going to come out for the first time. It is Nate Stewart who went around there in a battle for 14th. It was he and Tyler Williams that were side by side there, and I believe that's just a case of one driver getting in a little hot, and I don't think Stewart expected him to be there, but nevertheless, Tyler Williams, a huge sin there into turn 3, gets just underneath Stewart, and there you have it. That's just classic short track contact right there.
Yeah, I think Nate Stewart is well on top of things to add to the classic short track contact. Was trying to go for the later arc and try and arc it to the bottom. Just, I don't think realized he was not clear at that moment, and significant damage as a result there added to already his front nose damage. You'll see it, and you can see that there was already some impatience here from the 34 on top of things. You can see at the full speed was already feeling held up, seeing the opportunity, took the dive, and still the arc was made.
Well, it's just one of those cases. Stewart was obviously slow with the damage. He had about 8 car lengths to the car in front of him as they were battling for the 13th position. So I think that's just one of those cases when you know you're being held up. You have a 30-lap heat. There's not a whole lot of time to get things done. And Tyler Williams was not going to be very patient behind Nate Stewart to try to get his way by. So we'll see. I believe this next time by, we are still single file. Get the call from the tower that we will be utilizing the choose cone once again this time by. I think it's pretty helpful, though, here to go in that second heat. You get to kind of feel out where everybody's going to go. How everybody, and again, this is something that's a little bit different to sim racing. We've obviously seen it instituted in real life, whether it's in Cup Series racing or your local short track has had a choose cone for a while now. In sim racing, for a lot of these guys, it's something that's brand new. So especially here on a short track, something that they're having to get used to is I think Will Norton just ran right over it.
Wow.
Oh, he did.
He didn't even pay attention, I don't think. I think he just blanked out. Just completely ran over where that red circle was, not even realizing that. Wow.
That is tough. Will Norton from the race lead. It seems as though he was just unaware, and that's exactly what we were talking about. They're just an inexperience with the choose cone going to cost, especially when you're the leader. You have to know it's coming up. That's the one thing that's so hard when everybody else in front of you is zigging or zagging one way. You pretty much find out that they're using it, but if you're the leader, you pretty much have to know beforehand where to go, and I think that's just one of those mindless mistakes. So Will Norton started on the pole, is going to have to work his way up from 20th. He's going to have 17 laps to do it when we get back under green. Again, caution flag laps not counting in this second heat. So now David Walsh, he gets control of the race, says he'll take the green flag here. Everybody sorts himself out. Connor Horn now on the binders here is a little bit of a delayed green flag right there. Nonetheless, Walsh able to get away. Frisch is able to come by in third. They go side by side for fifth behind them. It is Spencer Pete and Blake Reynolds.
Yeah, this is going to be entertaining to see how Norton tries to play this from the very back. He's going to need to be patient, I feel, though, as a result of that situation. Already way deep in the field.
Very deep in the field, and it is not going to be easy to pass here to try to make those moves as Norton trying the best he can to try and go forward as quickly as possible. Another driver here, Sean Butler, somehow kind of running back further than what we would have expected, at least in timing and scoring, showing up on my end, put all the way back in 18th, although there's something going on here with timing and scoring. It's showing Ethan Stuckwish as the leader, and that is not correct. There's definitely something here trippy with how this race is being scored right now.
Yeah, they're going to have to throw a caution here with this to be able to sort things out properly.
I think it was something here with the choose. So obviously, caution flag laps do not count here. That is something that is brand new in timing and scoring, or not something that's brand new, but I think with what they're trying to do with the choose cone, Will Norton was scored as the race leader. He gets a black flag on that last restart. We saw a delayed green there, as if the sim was kind of waiting on Will Norton to take the green flag, thinking that he was still the leader, even though he's put in the longest line. And so when scoring refreshed, it still counted, I think, Norton as the leader, or somehow that threw it off to where a bunch of cars who were up front are now scored a lap down. So with the fact that caution laps don't count, they're going to go ahead and take a moment and try to get this entire situation sorted out as best they can.
Yeah, this is a tough scenario. It's going to be an intriguing scenario, to say the very least, Blake.
It is. We're just trying our best here to listen into what the tower is saying here to try to see the issue that it'll try to sort out. But while we wait for them to get timing and scoring all squared away so we can go back under the green flag, second caution flag here in heat number 2, we'll go ahead and go side by side, and we'll leave a camera up for you so you won't miss a minute of it as they try to sort things out here. And we will be right back here with coverage of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Of the best sim racers. $200,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? Interlagos, Barcelona, Imola, Silverstone, Road Atlanta, Montreal, Spa, Nürburgring, Le Mans, Monza. This is racing for immortality. This is esports personified. This is the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup.
All right, back with you here from the Five Flag Speedway for coverage of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. And at least for right now, we're in a holding pattern, although almost ready to sort things out here. A bit of a timing and scoring issue here. We're not exactly in the time, Justin, where maybe once upon a time you had official scorers for each team down on pit road marking off laps. This isn't mid-1990s NASCAR, but there can be some issues when you try some new things, and I think with the black flag and something about Will Norton, who was originally scored as the race leader, having to serve an end of longest line penalty with caution flag laps not counting. Somehow it just threw off the sim, and right now every car, we're trying to get them in the right order, and I believe they've about come to a solution here.
I believe so, as this is going to end up seeing Connor Horn as the current leader, Michael Frisch, Walsh, Preet, and Reynolds the top five at the moment. I think they're just trying to make sure everything is all buttoned up before they let the cars roll once again for a green flag racing, but I think everything might be in a decent spot here. We'll just have to see how things play out here, since it'll be about 12 green flag laps to go. And what was originally a race dominated by Will Norton to start off. Big moment for Connor Horn and company for good track position for the potential for the future.
It definitely helped those drivers out, but while we continue to sort it out, in the end, we're just going to lose a couple of laps. It was about 2 or 3 laps that we ran there under the green flag before the issue was spotted. It was quickly dealt with. Hats off to the FTF administration, especially with how they've done this. There's been a lot of communication with the drivers. They're still obviously trying to make sure that everybody's going to be scored and refreshed exactly where they need to be. But there's been a lot of communication on both ends from the drivers and from the FTF administration. So they've done a pretty good job here of trying to sort things out. We'll obviously let you know when it looks like they're going back to the choose cone to try and determine the new starting order, and I think they're very close to it. We may just see it happen even this trip around. I believe that is the call. Yes, this time we'll see what happens here with the choose cone as we work onto the front straightaway that now has lost a little bit of that lighting that we originally saw, as obviously the sun continuing to set here. It's going to go down. by the time we sort this all out. So in the end, again, caution flag laps don't count. So we could take all the time in the world to sort this out. We lost maybe 2 or 3 laps there with the scoring error, but otherwise we're going to get them going. Very cold tires going to come for these drivers on this restart. Perhaps that's going to be the biggest issue as we now have our new leader sorted out. Here comes Connor Horn. Green flag is in the air, and we are back and ready to go. 12 laps to go here in heat number 2. Top 10 transfer on.
This time done properly, absolutely. It's going to be interesting how the transfer position tries to fare out at the moment as a bit of contact for some of those cars back there. How about 3 wide as Butler trying to force his way on by Worth?
Butler trying to go on by. This is the battle for the transfer spot. Good friends side by side as they wreck behind them. Caution flag out once again. And oh boy, it is Nate Stewart once again who has just not had a very good race. He was loose off the corner and just wasn't able to save the race car here in turn 1. Caution flag out again for a driver that and a car that it's definitely not operating on all 8 cylinders. That car was very damaged, but you could see right there, just very loose off the corner. Almost makes contact with the 34, which you can remember they exchanged a little bit of paint earlier on in the evening and just finished it off right there. Wasn't able to save that car and spins it around once again.
Well, he was definitely trying to hang on to it. I'm surprised he didn't wreck earlier, honestly, but good job on keeping it off of anybody else in that situation. But now at this point, what was it? At least a cylinder you were mentioning. He's probably down 6 of them at this point.
I'd imagine so. That car, though it will get fixed up before we get rolling here for the consolation, assuming that may happen. Now, of course, we do have a 30-minute limit on these heat races, and of course with the timing and scoring issue with the caution and everything, we have had to take some time to try and sort that out. I didn't think that a 30-lap race at a half-mile track would potentially come down to that, but if we get another couple of cautions, that very well may come into play here. So we'll try to keep tabs on that. Of course, as soon as I say that, Zach Johnson, our wonderful producer, throws the time remaining up there. So again, 11 to go at a track that you should be running mid 16, 17 seconds on. We should get there, but if we have a lot of yellow flags, it just might come into play. So we'll see it once again. Will anybody hit that line that, again, is right between the G and the S in 5 flags there, right near the outside wall? Looks like everybody gets through it pretty clean, as most drivers will obviously take the bottom. A few will leapfrog on the top, as Blake Reynolds, Cosme, and Eshu. Jonathan Oates gain a handful of spots there as they'll try to work it on the top side before they can get back down to the bottom. So Pace Truck's going to work its way off. 10 laps to go when we get the green flag, and a good jump for Connor Horn. They are jockeying for position in the back. There's only 5, I believe 6 drivers on my count made the decision to go top side, and they are duking it out right now for the transfer spot. Side-by-side battle is between Will Norton, do you believe it or not, and Lucas Plosel.
Yeah, Norton using that shoes cone, and I think he's got some speed to be able to try and push himself on that high line, but a smart move by that 73 as well, because that 73 was deep in the field. He was able to find that hole in the bottom. He might be able to get in as a result of that.
A long stacked up line here on the bottom. That's allowing Will Norton to actually make the high line work. Norton to the high side. He's going to bring Sean Butler with him, looking to get around Lucas Plosel. So now Will Norton making it happen in the middle groove. Butler going to try to follow along with him, but Norton able to clear off the top side. He's going to get the 9th position. Now Jonathan Oates right in front of Lucas Plosel, holding on to position number 10.
Now it's the matter of being defensive if you're Oates, and I don't think he's going to allow anybody to poke his way underneath unless he makes a mistake, and he just made one, but so did Plosel as well. Jordan Wood forced to go up on the high line, and at this point, the patience, there is none. You have to go now.
Absolutely not. Worth stuck there on the high side by virtue of that mistake. Oh, man, and Worth going to get squeezed into the wall there by the 45 as Worth trying to get back down. Now here comes the 25 of Ethan Stuckwish there, who is just able to get a nose under the 92, but this allows, again, Jonathan Oates to move forward by about a car length and a half over that 45 machine as they cross the stripe this time, 4 laps to go.
Well, been close quarters racing again with that 73 machine. He opened up the door big time. He's really trying to arc it down, and look at what's happening behind them. Butler's losing spots, that 35 losing spots. Everyone getting checked up by that 73. This is going to potentially be close off some of these corner exits with how closely knit some of these bumpers are getting.
They are getting awfully close here in the waning laps at Five Flags Speedway. Just 2 more trips around. Who is going to be able to get in? Plosel all over the back bumper of Jonathan Oates. They are nearly nose to tail off the corner. 73, better exit. But Lucas Plosel going to try to set up the move as he hits the apron in 3 and 4.
Final chance here as Worth thinking about the send, not able to get there. I think Oates is in a good spot as the cone goes flying up the racetrack.
Not the green cone. Is now Plosel going to dump the 73. Here comes Jordan Worth up the middle. He's going to get hit by Butler. Plosel gets turned, and hanging on there is going to be Jonathan Oates, who looked to get the bumper from the 45 there from the transfer spot. And I'd have to say that was definitely an intentional hit right there on a short track. Butler and Worth get swept up in it, but unfortunately for Plosel, it works out worse for him than anybody else, as he is not able to roll across the line exactly where he wanted to. So big implications there to end heat number 2 that is won by, you know what? My results aren't even refreshing, so I'm just we'll say Doucette won it because that sounds right. But my goodness, drama and implications are going to set up what is going to be a very interesting Consi. And you know how interesting it's going to be, Justin? Every driver is going to transfer into the main event. That's how interesting it's going to be, all 22.
We'll have to see what's said from race control actually on that point, but with the consolation, you've got a lot of heavy hitters. Aaron Smith, Sean Butler in the front. You have drivers like Painter, like Williams to keep an eye on. Keeping an eye on as well with that 017 that's going to be deep in the field in 11th spot. How about David Schildhaus in 19th as well? Blake, this is going to be critical for some of these drivers to be able to keep out of trouble.
They'll try to definitely keep him out of trouble. And is it the top 5? Maybe what iRacing is telling us. And yeah, so iRacing is so the iRacing server is telling us that all 22 are going to transfer in. FTF administration there reminding the drivers it is top 5 there. So that is my bad on that. So top 5 will transfer on. Right now, Aaron Smith, Sean Butler on row number 1. And again, it is going to be really interesting to see exactly who is able to make their way forward. A couple of drivers who were swept up in some accidents: Ben Billard, Nate Stewart, David Schildhaus, Lucas Plosel there, who went for the big send, the big dump there at the end of heat number 2, will try to work their way in to that top 5. So 22, I believe 21 cars, as Will Rogers has not made his way onto the racetrack in either his heat or this Consi. So 21 cars going to roll off here. And according to administration, top 5 transferring on to the feature tonight. So lights are off on the pace truck. Aaron Smith going to have control of the field, as again, we are in near darkness here at the Five Flags Speedway. 25 laps. Let's see who gets back here first, as we are green flag racing here once again. Aaron Smith down into turn number 1. Butler close on that right rear quarter panel. Nearly make contact. A bit of a wiggle there out of Butler. He's able to get down to the bottom, and Smith is going to go around. He got loose into 3 and never swept it up. Race leader Aaron Smith spins, and the whole field piles in.
Way too quick into the corner, way too quick. And it should be worth noting that Blake Reynolds had mentioned that he had been struggling with looseness into turn 3 from the back straightaway. Smith, in that case, really tried to send it hard to hold on to the bottom, and the transition with that bottom of the racetrack and the apron, I think, just caught him off guard. And add on to the factor that he tried to go full throttle to loop it around Blake instead of going straight into the wall or trying to lock it up. just absolute calamity to start off the Consi.
Absolute insanity here. And you can see there is no contact between Butler and Aaron Smith. Smith came over the radio and said, that's about the dumbest thing that I've ever done. No contact there. Can't even claim that that was some net code, as Aaron Smith just... Again, very cold tires right here on the start, just loops it around, and there you see handful of cars. Gary Waterworth is involved. Jake Poulin gets swept up in it as well. Some heavy damage here on lap 1 for several drivers. A couple also able to make their way by down on the bottom side. David Schildhouse was able to go down there. I think Jeremy Clapper got tagged, but for the most part here, he's okay. Let's look on board here, the Subway machine, Andrew Schwartz. Let's see how it looks from his perspective. Right here on the outside wall, and Schwartz gonna avoid he's gonna avoid everything but have to come to a dead stop, lose a little bit of track position in that.
Yeah, but it's better than having to demolish race car, right? So able to keep the car clean. He's still in 9th position from all of that. That's how many cars that took out. Wow, is the best thing I can say in that. An incredible way to start this off.
A crazy way to start here as it continues to darken up here. It's definitely setting the mood here at this racetrack. The pace truck obviously has the lights, but otherwise it's really just the front stretch lights here at 5 Flags. So the front stretch and pretty good view here in front of the the virtual spectators that are not here. They're doing their job at social distancing, I'm sure, watching this stream. But the track continuing to cool down. But other than that front straightaway, there's not a whole lot of lighting here at 5 Flags. So it's going to be interesting with how long heat number 2 took because of that timing and scoring issue. I mean, you can see, look how much that pace truck lights up the track. Behind that, I mean, this looks like, 2013 Aaron's 499 at Talladega? This is kind of what it's starting to look like out here.
I remember a couple drivers talking about this with short track racing, that it's so easy, it's so dark here in real life as well. Green flags out, off and away, and several drivers just didn't go.
Again, perhaps visibility started to become an issue once again. Justin Melillo up and into the wall, but he's able to save it. A nice jump there for Butler. He's able to get on the throttle well early over everybody else. Single file behind them. Side-by-side battle, though, for 4th. And again, right around that transfer spot, Chris Wetz and Jordan Worth, as the caution flag gonna come out. One spinner on the front straightaway. It is Andy Margot who loops it around here on the front straightaway.
And he got too loose, and this time went, I think, with the lockup method to try and avoid trouble. The problem is there were several cars who were right behind him that had no time to check up, and some more significant damage to a couple more drivers as a result here. This has been interesting so far.
It has been. Again, you can see the difference here as they work onto the front straightaway. Andy Margot a little bit loose, and another near miss for Andrew Schwartz, who was almost swept up in that first accident, had to come to a complete stop to miss that one. Nearly swept up in this one as well, as Andy Margot loops it around here in this race. Again, like we mentioned, caution flag laps do not count, so we still have 25 laps to go in this. A 25-minute time limit, should that come into play, is obviously going to be a factor at some point if we continue to run under the caution flag. But we are working lap number 3, just lap number 3 now, as I believe this trip around. We're going to do the choose cone this time. I hope not, because Sean Butler just ran over it. I think we'll make one more trip around before we decide that. But oh boy, I think, again, with how long all this is taking, that timing and scoring issue took up some time. And we heard Sean Butler just a couple of minutes ago over the radio. It's interesting to try and see out here once that pace truck pulls off.
It's going to be interesting how they handle this in the feature tonight, on top of things, because this is stuff you'd have to consider in real life. There's not too many lights down the back straightaway. There's a ton down the front stretch. So this is going to be a major factor for drivers to be able to hit their marks here, as They're choosing next time by here, Blake. That's why you've seen the drivers running over those lines.
Yeah, extended the yellow flag once again to try to get everybody sorted out. A couple of drivers on pit road trying to get some repair. Again, they can get all the repair that they want. They are not going to go laps down. By the way, iRacing does official scoring when caution flag laps do not count. So try not to hit the choose cone that you may not be able to see all too well. Again, white line between the G and the S past the start-finish line is where you don't want to hit it. You see that highlighter there in the middle of that circle. That is the line that you do not want to cross over. And we'll see everybody giving it enough space that they're not even close. So everybody able to get through pretty smooth that time. And like we've seen throughout the night, most cars taking the bottom, some taking the top to gain a little bit of track position, but field going to be under the control once again of Sean Butler out front. So pace truck going to pull off, darken this racetrack up. Butler in control of the field as he gets on the loud pedal. Green flag in the air once again. 22 laps to go.
I think a couple people again nearly ran over each other, not realizing that some of the others were going yet or not. This has been incredible so far to see how things have fared out as the 71 missed his marks trying to find them in the lines.
Yeah, Chris Wett's out the racetrack hard in the outside wall, nearly gets into Gary Waterworth there on the front straightaway, able to avoid everything right there. Heavy damage there for the 71 on the right door of his Mustang. He's able to hold on. Sean Butler, though, under assault for the race lead. Here comes the 017 of Kyle Ely, who has a shot at him here into 1 and 2.
Oh, and Justin Malou around in the heart of the pack as they're wrecking all over in turns 1 and 2.
Caution flag out, and again, drivers continuing to pile into this accident as once again, perhaps the culprit of another loose race car, as Justin Malillo, I think, is the one who, we saw him do this in his heat. He got loose right here on the front straightaway, and that is going to bring us under the third caution flag here in our consolation race. Malillo into the wall, and he is going to collect a handful of them behind. He gets into the side of the 45. Lucas Plosel, Gary Waterworth spins around. I think Chris Wetz, he got a little bit of damage in this as well. Ben Billard, close call here for David Schothaus and Jeremy Clapper as they nearly get together. Clapper actually gets involved, and Schothaus, the slick veteran, going to avoid most of the carnage there.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, you'd have to think that drivers would learn from some of the mistakes, unfortunately, there. Just a little pushing way too hard up the racetrack there, but let's look at Schildhouse in that wreck avoidance. Sees the trouble at the very edge of the lights and just avoids carnage as the smoke helps him a little bit. Actually got hit on the left side, too.
Yeah, that's what we talk about. I think what our friend David Schothaus there would call ARCA brakes there, as Jeremy Clapper tried to zoom through that wreck, but unfortunately he got in it by virtue of doing that. So nice move there by Schothaus, who right now currently runs in the 13th position. But talking about visibility, I don't want to harp on it too much, but imagine, obviously, for these drivers, this is sim racing, so there's a lot you can adjust with your monitor, brightness issues and everything. But I'm just thinking about, I remember talking to Landon Castle a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about Mark Martin, the later days that he was at Hendrick Motorsports, and there is kind of a different degree in which these drivers can see, not only in real life, but how they can see in their monitors, what settings they use, all that. And I'm just imagining somebody who, like Mark Martin, who towards the end of his days at Hendrick, he could not see the gauges. They had to put tape at certain spots on each gauge so he would know exactly if something was out of whack or not. I'm just imagining somebody like that running at a track here where obviously you can see on the front straightaway, but the darkness continues to come over here, and it's not going to get any better throughout the night.
And I'm just thinking about those who say are in VR or can't reach their monitor, for example, and click around and adjust the brightness here, because that's going to be where you can't really adjust it too much. So you're going to have to be able to adapt to this scenario. It's going to be important for the rest of the night too, because if you make the main race, you're going to have to deal with this at the very minimum. So it's something you will have to adjust.
125 laps still to commence here. So this is something these drivers have dealt with, and If you can remember FTF GNS history, we did have a road course last year where it went longer than scheduled, and they didn't even have lights there. So at least we have lights on the front straightaway here. That race was run in nearly complete darkness there, and that was interesting as well. You can imagine how they piled it up. But Butler once again in control of the race lead. Here comes Kyle Ely to the outside of him, trying to get that run off the corner, as now they go side by side behind them as well. Butler to the outside wall is Worth now able to make that middle work. There on the inside is Brett Puckery, but Jordan Worth trying to hang strong there in the middle.
Well, hearing there's a penalty coming up for a lane change violation as Punkari trying to hold on the inside in more trouble. It's Jack Painter.
Jack Painter, and again, this has been something that has happened all too often here in this race. One driver gets loose on the top, door slams somebody on the front straightaway, and it's not usually just in the way these things work. It doesn't seem very often that the driver that gets loose is the one that gets hurt in the accident. It's the driver that they hit that gets spun around, and this is exactly the case here. Jake Poulin and the 22 of Jack Painter get together off the corner, and it's going to send Painter, much like we saw David Schildhouse earlier in his heat. Exact same scenario. Poulin gets loose, and around goes the 22 right into the fence.
Yeah, and several more getting more damage. You see the back end of some of the cars getting demolished as they ride the fence trying to avoid all the carnage. Should be worth noting that there is an EOL penalty. We talked about, Blake. It's for Sean Butler, a lane change violation from the lead.
Lane change violation from the lead. That is a very interesting call. I'll have to say so. But you gotta choose your lane and stay in it. But very interesting here that they end up tabbing Butler with that penalty. So unfortunately, he's going to go to the end of the longest line and have to work his way forward, which we're still not even halfway in this race. We've had a couple of cautions, so we continue to race on here, but Butler gonna be scored in the back here when timing and scoring refreshes. And here's a replay of that lane change. You can see Butler on the bottom, and well, yeah, I'd have to say that's a good call. The rule is you cannot change lanes before the start finish line, and you can clearly see Butler got a good jump there on the bottom, but he clearly gets to the wall before the start finish line. And although it doesn't really affect anything, by the letter of the law, that is a restart violation. So it's a tough call, but I think it's the right one.
And it's going to be a situation where he might have to rely on points potentially or provisional at this rate. So he's going to either need a ton of luck, or he's going to need to hope that the choose cone is going to be able to pick him up some valuable track position here. I'm curious how this is going to play out, but I think he might be one of the candidates to pick the top as a result here.
He just might as a way to try to make up that track position. Still a long ways to go here as the choose cone is going to be displayed for you. Here comes Jordan Worth. He's in second. I believe he's the first driver that we've seen that has that second option, and he's going to take that top side. Several drivers taking the top there. There were about 3 or 4 in a row that took that, and Butler, the last one, he'll take the top as well. So many more taking the outside line than I would have thought. Nevertheless, it puts Kyle Ely there in the front, Jordan Worth to his outside in second, and Jake Poulin, who just got loose off the corner, he restarts the outside in fourth. So we'll see it once again. Leader, you're going to have to keep it there on the bottom. Ely does a good job of that as he gets away 2 or 3 car links. He already sports off at 2. Worth now stuck in a side-by-side battle there for second.
How about 5 or 6 car links just about here as Pancari trying to run that bottom line here as here we go again.
Yellow flag out. Jake Poulin, a hard lick there for Andrew Schwartz as Jake Poulin wrapped up in this caution flag as well. Second straight time we've seen him, although he didn't have help this time either. Just, it has been really tricky. We've seen several drivers get loose off of turn 4. I think he was trying to avoid getting into Jordan Worth, and that 0-0 Hellman's machine has been a handful up to this point, and unfortunately, second straight time that we see Jake Poulin go around.
I could see that coming from a mile away. Bit too low, a bit too quick on the throttle, trying to keep it off the 92 machine. Just a recipe for disaster on top of things. No room for Andrew Schwartz to go, who ends up, I think, nearly getting hit from behind, and the checkup effect is Andy Margot was coming in quick. That lockup swung him almost to the left. Let's take a look from Schwartz.
We'll take a look at it right here is Andrew Schwartz there on the bottom. We've chronicled a couple of times he's avoided some wrecks, but oh yeah, just nowhere to go right here as he slams right into Jake Poulin. He's been a master at avoiding the accidents, but unfortunately that is going to be a costly one, as you see the entire front clip on that race car is gone, and he is here on pit road trying to repair some damage. Again, he's not going to go a lap down with caution laps not counting. So we still have not reached halfway. We only got 2 more green flag laps there in the books on that run. We're working lap number 11 right now. We'll take lap 12 of 25 when we get the green flag back. And right now it is Kyle Ely up front, holding on to the race lead.
I'm just wondering how this is going to play out for the main race for tonight at this rate as well, with the amount of attrition and how drivers are going to take notes on that, because it's been tricky so far tonight. Again, it's been loose off turn 4 so far, and some drivers have been struggling on entry turn 3, as we've seen throughout the day. It's just also about finding the levels of patience, I think, that is going to be necessary to be able to be in position to be able to not only move on to the main race, but also make sure if you're in the main race, you're in a comfortable position.
It's definitely going to be about being comfortable, and I don't know how comfortable you can be after what we saw at New Smyrna. Again, it was a very attrition-filled race the last time that this series went out to a short track. It was Michael Cozy Jr. who ended up winning that race, 159 laps, but 18 cautions for nearly 90 laps in that race. And, you know, I don't think that this is going to end up too much different. Now, we went to Auto Club last week, and of course, we had a great race there. Just one caution flag to speak of in 100 laps at that racetrack. But it seems like one thing with this series, the short tracks have been pretty chaotic, and I would not imagine that that is going to change up too much in this one. So choose cone is done. Pace truck is off. Kyle Ely, Jordan Worth, your top 2. Green flag is in the air. Worth able to make that top side work. He's going to get down to the bottom in second. And here comes Nate Stewart. He's on the outside now, trying to look for the 3rd spot.
And it looks like he's going to be given the space here. He's in a comfortable spot here to be able to arc it on down and get a proper move down to the bottom side. But look at Schoenhaus. He's battling for 6th position and coming in quick.
David Schoenhaus on the bottom of the racetrack. Again, that is just behind the battle for the transfer spot. The Gamer Advantage Chevrolet side by side with Lucas Plosel hanging tight on the door of the 20 car. Onto the front straightaway. I think both cars a little bit damaged, so hard to tell if there's an advantage for anybody. But before we can figure that out, caution flag again, and this time it is Sean Butler who goes around.
And I think he actually got into the back end of his buddy Ben Billard, actually, in a bit of a checkup effect that almost got him loose trying to avoid the 009 machine. Ends up spinning around down the front straightaway and adding some front nose damage to that car. We'll see in the bar visuals replay. See a big checkup. Keep in mind that Ben has no hood, so he's down on straight line speed. I don't think he was expecting that. Right there, there's the checkup. Right there, it gets him loose.
And we've seen plenty of times with this car that once you slide it out just a little bit, it is very hard to catch it with how the banking works there off of turn 4. It has bitten a number of drivers. You see there Andy Margot working on by with a little bit of damage. He may have been involved and swept up in that one as well. But we've seen a lot of drivers, the best of the best, really struggle off that corner. We've seen Jake Poulin do it a couple of times. We've seen Justin Malillo get loose. We saw Nate Stewart do it earlier. This has been the real trouble spot, is just before that start-finish line, how these cars work up off the corner. And, you know, we were talking about it in practice. Of course, the conditions were much different. Sun was out. You could see everything. was a little bit, it was actually a little bit warmer. We've cooled down a little bit, the temperatures since then, but it has been a lack of grip there off of turn 4 that's been plaguing these drivers.
Absolutely, and that's even with what is typically fairly cool grip, but when it comes to the nighttime, it may be anticipating more of a looser's time or looser's setup to be able to try and have the best of the best drivers who know how to manage throttle control. Be prepared for around the corners here, but time is just about out. We may have time for a couple more laps here, so it's going to be very close with 3 minutes and 30 seconds on that clock.
That is true. We talked about it in the heat, but with all these drivers, with all the caution laps, there is a time limit on this consolation. You see it in the top left-hand corner of your screen that I believe we're going to get the choose cone this next time as we take the 1 to go. But we're going to have to get it sorted out pretty quickly, or else these drivers, they're going to have to get it sorted out quick. But I'd imagine that's just going to create more cautions here. If we get another caution, that is pretty much going to end it. So we'll see one more time here. The choose cone, where is everybody going to go? No surprise here to see Kyle Ely go low. Jordan Worth takes the top side. Again, he's one of the few drivers who has really been able to make that Davies Doobies machine work on the top side as the second car. But a really interesting call here from Nate Stewart. He was the third car in line. He elects to go high. And again, top 5 transfer. So if Stewart can't get back down to the bottom, he may be in a tough spot here.
One thing to note, the car in 5th position hit the choose cone, so that's unfortunate for the 46. Off and away we go. Oh, and Justin Malillo wrecked it at the back of the field.
Justin Malillo spun around. They'll keep it green for the time being. Ely shoots away. Worth into second. Stewart into third. Picari into fourth. And that may just end it there, as they had another spinner in Andrew Schwartz, who was well behind the field. Unfortunately, with that time limit, that might be the end of this race. And you can see it happening here well behind the battle. Yeah, Andrew Schwartz just got completely run over and turned around, and that's enough for it to throw the caution. And that is very unfortunate, because again, I think that is going to make Chris Wetz, who was running there in 6th, come up just short of trying to make that transfer spot.
Yeah, this is, wow. It's going to come down to timing and scoring. Really unfortunate, but oh, and there's some drivers and tempers flaring a little bit here, so we'll have to see how things fare out the rest of the way in terms of how the feature race goes tonight, I should rather say.
That is going to change things up here. We'll continue to pace around, but you'd imagine that unless we get going this next time by, this is really just going to be the end of it here. Lights are still on the pace truck, so don't think that we'll be able to complete 2 pace laps and get another lap in by the time that the timer runs out. So this may very well be it. If it is Kyle Ely, Jordan Worth, Nate Stewart, Brett Pancari, and Lucas Plosel who will advance to the 125-lap feature. Chris Wetz would be the first driver out. David Schildhaus, the second driver. And I think that is how this is going to be scored, Justin. Again, Stink, we are just mere seconds away from this clock running out. Yeah, lights are still on the pace truck, so this is probably going to be it here.
Don't forget, there is the potential for maybe a green-white checkered here too, since that has been something that can happen with no caution flag laps counting. So it all comes down to the sim really on, are they going to end the race, or are they going to give a restart here? The lights are still on. That's an indicator that we may get something here.
We'll see. The tower saying we're choosing this time in case we get to go back green. Let's see. Lights are out. So we may get one more crack at it, even if it's a green-white checkered or just a one-lap shootout. We're going to try to settle this thing out. And the caution is on. Once again, lights are back on the pace car. Race is over, I believe.
I believe
It would have, and the reason why is it would have been just a run to the line, so they would have gotten the green. But as soon as the leader Kyle Ely would get to the line to restart the race, that would actually be the checkered. So it wouldn't even be a green-white checkered or a white checkered. It would just be a checkered. So they just decided to go ahead and end it under caution. So unfortunately, timing is the essence, and Kyle Ely, it works out for him. He's going to move on along with Jordan Worth, Nate Stewart, Brett Picari, and Lucas Plosel. It is tough luck for Chris Wetz and David Schildhouse. They finished 6th and 7th along with Ethan Stuckwish, Gary Waterworth, Ben Biller, your top 10. They're going to have to go home. They're going to have to sit this one out.
And the rest, keep in mind, of the starters tonight, going to be via provisionals. So it's going to be critical. So the drivers with provisionals: Clapper, Schwartz, Schildhouse, Poulin, as well as Sean Butler and Justin Malou, as well as Andy Margot, are going to get those provisionals, Blake. The rest of the drivers locked in amongst those top competitors.
And that's exactly right. So the top 5 transferred in. There are sponsor provisionals. There are owner provisionals from last season's points that are still accumulating this season. So as you said, David Schildhouse is going to be in for provisional. Sean Butler, Andy Margot, just to name a couple. So they will advance here as we have a little bit of a downtime here to try to get things sorted out. So when we come back, 125 laps here for the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals on the docket for you. We'll let you watch as they continue to warm up and get their final preparations in for tonight's Epic Gaming Network 150. But until then, we'll go side by side here for just a moment, live on STN.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Of the best sim racers. $200,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? Interlagos, Barcelona, Imola, Silverstone, Road Atlanta, Montreal, Spa, Nürburgring, Le Mans, Monza. This is racing for immortality. This is esports personified. This is the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup.
Winding down the last couple of seconds before we get things underway here for what all the virtual fans out there are waiting to see. The FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals duke it out in battle for 125 laps here around Five Flags Speedway. As the last couple of seconds will wind off the clock here, Blake McCandless, Justin Prince along in the booth here in Pensacola, Florida. Justin, what do you think you can gather from those first couple of heats? That constant we saw, it was crazy. What do you think we're going to see here as the night continues to go on, and now we're really racing for all the marbles?
Patience is going to be very important. Throttle control is going to be very important. Wreck avoidance is going to be very important. Those are three main keys that I think are going to be very important for tonight, that I think we're going to see pop up throughout tonight. Now it's also the matter as well of making sure you keep a clean race car and making sure you think big picture as well, because it is 125 laps. You do not want to get in trouble on lap 2.
No, you don't. And again, last time we ran a race like this, there's a lot of caution, so you'll definitely want to keep your race car clean as well. Look at about the top 20 here in this race. Ryan Doucette, of course, he's going to lead us off from pole. He started on the pole in qualifying, and then, of course, he won heat number 1. So he will start out front. And, of course, there is a long list of drivers here who are going to be in this race. But, of course, the 7 provisional drivers, Justin, that we mentioned earlier, Jeremy Clapper, Jake Poulin, Justin Malillo, Sean Butler, Andy Margot, Andrew Schwartz, and David Schildhouse. They will be the 7 provisional drivers. The rest of the field determined by either the positions that they finished in their heats or in the consi that we just ran.
It's going to be intriguing who's going to be able to control this race tonight. Ryan Doucette looked very dominant in his respective heat race. Connor Horn able to take advantage of some of the luck. So now this is going to be fun to see who's going to be able to keep their cars clean and control the tempo of this race tonight.
We'll see who can get it done. Again, a track that you can see from the press box view right there, and in the corners, much different vision there as the nighttime continues to unwind here in Pensacola, Florida. See the bright lights on that pace truck, and of course the lights here on the front straightaway. Going to make it really interesting for these drivers to duke it out here. 125 laps. We will mention the time limit, 2 hours, but if we can't get 125 laps in, with caution laps counting, by the way, then we're probably doing something wrong here. So Ryan Doucette, you see Connor Horn to the outside and the number 24. They will start on the front row. Lights are out on the pace car. This is what we've been waiting to see. Doucette and Horn ready to get us underway as we get the Epic Gaming Network 150 kicked off here. Green flag in the air.
And a nice clean launch from all the drivers off towards the back straightaway. Horn quickly to the bottom. This is going to be important off these starts. Get to the bottom, and then if you feel comfortable, try and get that top to work. It's been bottom line, though, dominant much of this run, unless you have a much quicker car compared to the others on tire grip.
You're going to need that grip later on in the race. Side by side here, Michael Frisch, the 94 on the bottom. That is Jacob Fisher. Is Frisch trying to make it work on the high side? We've seen, again, that middle line be very troublesome for a handful of drivers, and at least here early on, it is not working out for Michael Frisch. He gets shuffled back a little bit further. Ethan Corder now on the inside. He's had a pretty strong start to the FTF GNS season. He's looking to continue that here tonight, the 818 machine. He now works his way to the top 10 as Michael Frisch around here in turn 1. He saves it. No caution thrown as he was about 90 degrees sideways, but we keep it running.
I think he avoided significant damage as now the caution is out. As I believe they wrecked again.
See Sean Butler there slow as Frisch collected it up, but another wreck here into turn 1 well before that ever occurred. We'll see exactly what that was for. I think Andy Margot had some more issues. He was one of our drivers that qualified in through a provisional. And like we've seen time and time again tonight, it ended up being an issue. Oh, man, he Oh, he drives across the track right into Sean Butler. And that is going to expire his motor. We'll see it once again on the replay. Margot gets loose here off of 4, parks it on the racetrack, and when he's sitting on the high side, cuts down, nearly gets Justin Malillo, who is going to miss by mere inches here. You see, right, Margot on the high side. He's stopped. He's going to try to get it going here right in front of Malillo, who is just, he barely gets by. Nowhere for Sean Butler to go.
Yeah, he should have kept it locked up on the top line at the very least, and that could have brought up the caution flag right there, but instead, I think he just thought, you know what, I'm going to try and get to the bottom of the racetrack, try and hopefully get some time here, but unfortunately, just not a smart situation.
That's a tough break right here. As we'll actually get a word here from Sean Butler. He has stepped out of his race car. Sean, I don't know what this curse is with you in short tracks, but do you think it's ever going to be lifted here?
Well, since we have about 15 more of them on the schedule, I don't think so. But it's just a very frustrating night overall. Got that changing lanes penalty, which I think was kind of questionable after leading my entire Conti race, and then have to start from the back in this, and then just having that happen is just a cherry on top of the horrific luck I've been having at short tracks all season.
It has been some bad luck, so you'll be excited to know next week we go to the Bull Ring. Do you like your chances in that race maybe improving a little bit?
Oh, absolutely not. I've raced at the Bull Ring before, and I am not a fan of that track at all, and I can only imagine how much worse it's going to be for me that week. Maybe I can get a golden horseshoe in my car before the race and have nothing bad happen for once, who knows, but I'm thinking the forecast is looking to be more of the same for me, so, and I'm going to be a tough hole to dig myself out of in the points, but this definitely will not help me in any way.
I'm sure it won't, but Sean, we know you have a lot of adoring fans out there, and it's unfortunate to see you out this early once again on a short track. We'll hope the luck turns around next week at the Bull Ring.
Appreciate it, man. You guys keep having fun up here. They're going back green, I think.
They are going back green. They'll take lap number 10 as we get set off here. Ryan Doucette once again leading us as he has all night that he's been on the racetrack. Green flag is out. Connor Horn able to settle in second there. Battle there, though, for third on the high side. Here comes the late charge from Spencer Preet there trying to get it done. Now he's side by side for third with Christian Peterson.
And this is going to be interesting as that was a near lane change, I think, possibly for Ryan Doucette. So this might have an impact here.
It may. I'll take a look back at that restart. We'll see exactly what happened. And I have to believe by the letter of the law, if, they got Butler, that's about identical. And yes, Doucette is going to come down pit road this time right when the caution came out, so maybe he got in early, I'm not sure, but you see Jacob Fisher there, and I can't even tell what car is behind him with how much damage is on that machine. That is the 95 of Jeremy Clapper that have tangled here on the back straightaway for the caution.
Well, the caution, I think, started with Fisher, who got very loose, I think, in part on his own from turn 2, and then I think the car just rolled down the track similar to what we've seen with the first caution.
That is a really tough break here, but of course we mentioned how hard it is to see right there. You can see it on our cameras how dark it is there on the back straightaway. You can barely see the black space station car. So Fisher tries to get it rolling there for a split moment. He lets some traffic go on by. He thinks he's clear, and unfortunately there is oncoming traffic there in the 95. Who tried, he's all the way against the inside fence there trying to get on by. Unfortunately, that didn't work. I don't think the 95 was all too happy about that and Jeremy Clapper, but you see the initial contact right there. It looks like Fisher just got loose there on the top side, which we've seen time and time again here at Five Flags.
Yes, indeed, and tough break for Clapper. Significant damage on his machine, but again, confirmation in end of longest line penalty for that 077. As a result of that lane change violation that took place on the restart, you cannot go from the bottom up to the wall. So Doucette going to have to claw his way from 28th spot. Not going to be the easiest task tonight, as we've already seen.
No, it's certainly not, as we'll see here these cars continue to roll along at 5 flags, working under yet another caution flag here in this one. This may be kind of the story of the night. Just try to survive and keep your car out of trouble is going to be key, and we'll see exactly who can do that when the night is all said and done. We were talking about that middle lane eventually coming into play, but it just seems at the moment, Justin, I haven't seen any evidence that that is going to be a lane that you want to be in at some point. If anything, with the cool down of this track and the sunlight going away, I feel like it's actually the opposite. I feel like you want to be on the bottom even more, at least from what I've seen.
I think that's why so many people here at the Choose Cone are going straight to the bottom, except for maybe a couple people. Surprising the amount of people who are not willing to take the risk here. Some of the drivers are in the 20s who take the top line here. But this puts the field in control. Brandon Wilkinson, who's chosen the bottom here.
And Connor Horn, actually, he's the leader. He chose the high lane from the leader. He's perhaps trying to avoid what we've seen both Doucette and Butler do as they change lanes there before the start-finish line. One way to avoid having that is just go ahead and start on the wall. You don't even have to worry about it. So Horn moves up there. First leader we've seen do it tonight. Green flag back out on the speedway, side by side. Spencer Preet, Austin Johnson now duking it out for fourth. Preet is going to get the best of that in his Moonsport machine.
I think the 73 is up the racetrack. He's one of the drivers who chose that top line. Nowhere to go, though. But Wilkinson doing a solid job defending Christian Peterson at the moment.
He is. Peterson right behind him there, running in the 3rd position. The entire field starting to get single file on the bottom, except for Matthew Zwack right now. He's in 10th. He scrapes the outside wall. But again, it is so tough. You see how dominant the bottom is as the night has continued to move on. And unfortunately for Zwack, there's just not any room anywhere to try to get down there. And of course, we've seen it's been a big trouble spot, guys getting loose on the top side. But for Zwack, he's continuing to lose positions as he cannot find a way back down to the bottom.
Yeah, this is going to continue to hurt from him, to say the very least. Zwack at the moment shuffled all the way back to 14th. On the plus side, he's gained positions from his starting spot. The biggest mover is Plussel right now in the 45 machine inside the top 20 at least. Schwartz is doing a solid job towards the back as well in this one.
Yeah, Schwartz has as well. Again, he would have been knocked out if not for the provisional, as well as a couple of drivers. Andy Margot, David Schildhouse being a couple that were locked in. Of course, we had a sponsors provisional, I believe, as well. Nate Stewart took advantage of that. He currently runs in the 23rd position. But out front, Connor Horn doing a nice job showing the way here.
And we've seen this for those following on in the ERLs, ERL, I should rather say, a consistent driver who got better and better as time went on.
No trouble here off of turn 2. One car is around. It is the 45 of Lucas Plosel, who may have gotten tagged. I think a little bit of contact with the 02 of Ryan Naraki there off the corner, spins him around broadside in the middle of the track. That he's going to be the only car involved. The RNC and the 45 get together here, and you see it right there in the center of the corner.
Tough break as everyone else able to avoid him. Just a contact with the left rear quarter panel. Just thought there was an opening to get underneath a little bit too quick there in Naraki, and now that's going to reset the field.
That'll reset us here. We haven't seen too many cars make their way onto pit road during these caution flags. Track position, very important, but you see right there, Ryan Doucette all the way back in 27th. Remember, he was on the pole, got a black flag, worked his way, is trying to work his way through the field, and actually he's just going to go on pit road and pass by his pit stall. He's just going to, I think, willingly give up some spots there. I think he senses some of the danger there, Justin, that may be on the horizon. He doesn't want to go down and use a tire set, of which, if I take a look here, yep, 2 tire sets that these drivers have on pit road. But it seems like that hasn't been too much of an issue or concern with these drivers. I don't believe we really saw anybody in any of the heats or the consi come down, and we're only 27 laps into this race. Not too many green flag laps on. I think we're going to be hard-pressed to see anybody pit for tires, at least in the near future.
Well, they couldn't take tires for the heats or the consis. That was from race control. But here's the thing. It's still very early to even think about tires. At this point, you want to break it down in thirds, in common sense, or at least in halves. Once we get to about halfway in this race, I think we'll see a lot of people come down and pit if there's a caution around that mark. As well, I think that leaves an extra set just in case towards the end of the race. I think I see a lot of drivers going that route. Others may elect to take the risk if they think track position is going to be more valuable, and trying to defend hard is going to be more key than trying to pass other drivers. So it's going to be tricky for how this is going to fare out for some of the strategies. There's a couple ways you can break it down, Blake.
There are a couple of ways, but if New Smyrna was any indication here in this series, I'm taking track position almost 100% of the time, especially if you're further on back here, you're running about 20th or so. Track position is going to be king. And even if I'm in the back right now, I would just consider pitting now to get it out of the way. And then eventually when the rest of the field comes down, you can have a little bit of a fighting chance on fresher tires to try and stay out. But again, I feel like you're going to want track position. Ryan Doucette, he only got up to 27th on that last run, and he was leading this race. So very important for him. But Connor Horn back up front. Green flag is out. He has the lead. Once again, choosing that outside line. It works for him again. Kyle Ely settles there in second, or excuse me, Brandon Wilkinson runs there in the second position. And Christian Peterson, Austin Johnson, first side-by-side battle. That is for fourth.
Like the decision so far from Connor Hall. He's played this race nice and smart so far. Now it's the matter as well of keeping an eye on what's happening behind him, because Christian Peterson, he's been quick. He's just not been able to get a run on Wilkinson. Track position's been king, but Johnson, who's tried that top line a couple times, might be able to keep himself inside the top 5 here, battling with Spencer Preet.
He's trying to do so. He is pinching that car very close to the bottom. He's eventually able to get down, nearly gets in the back of Preet as he checks up to get in line. So he'll slot himself in 5th. Behind them, it is entirely single file all the way back to a 3-wide battle. Ethan Corder, Will Norton, and on the top side is Brian Tedeschi. They are all side by side. They now work 2 wide in front of them. Will Norton perhaps been the best driver so far in this race to try and make that middle groove work, and he's trying to do it right now for P11.
And he talked about the performance so far for Corder. Best driver on points so far this season, plus 29 from the postseason cut line, and now he's up the track. That was a little bit tight as well. Norton's not going to be too happy from that. Just got a little bit too tight there, as now the bottom's been opened up now for a couple different cars.
So Kyle Ely gets there as Nathan Rabideau is loose right in front of them. Blake Reynolds had a little bit of contact. They get together. They save it. We'll stay under green. About 4 or 5 drivers work by them. And what was really tight confines there off of turn 2. And eventually that creates a caution here in turn 2. So caution flag out once again. And I think that was all created around that situation. I think it was Blake Reynolds and Nathan Rabideau there that got together, tangled on the back straightaway. They saved it. Everybody scattered around. They were 3 and 4 wide trying to sort it out. And I think kind of in the ensuing chaos behind them, there's a stack up, and it looks like Jonathan Oates got the worst out of it off the bumper of Cosman Yuneshu.
Yeah. Contact from the quarter panel that sent him spinning all the way up to the top wall. Gonna see right here, just too much speed right into the quarter panel, and up the track goes Oates goes. Able to lock it on down though and get himself back rolling.
Yeah, he did a stellar job of not only keeping his track position, but trying to keep that 73 Ford Mustang out of the outside wall. But again, I think we've seen how important tires are. I don't even think he's going to pit after that. You see over 90 degrees sideways, gets tagged there by, I believe that's Jordan Worth that made contact with him. So maybe a little bit of damage on the Davies Doobies Toyota Supra. And we'll see this time they work their way around pit road. Not looking like too many takers, as, yep, they're going to stay out on the racetrack for the time being.
As you said, you want to keep the track position. We haven't had enough green flag laps, I think, for people to really think about it. We do have one, though, that does have a clean race car who's elected to come down. Brent Macari has elected to come down, the Canadian. So he's elected to go towards the back of the field here, it appears.
It looks like that would be the case. We saw Ryan Doucette. He went to the back of the field. He went on pit road, but did not take any service to his race car. Perhaps he's thinking the same thing. I believe Andy Margot doing the same, gave himself a... basically, he gave himself an end of longest line penalty. I think he went down pit road and sped to line up there at the back of the field. Jeremy Clapper, he's made his way down pit road a couple of times. He's trying to beat in the fenders on that Anaheim Ducks Chevrolet that may have been checked into the boards a little bit earlier, because the nose on that race car is entirely gone. And actually, I think he's going to go another lap down right now. Jeremy Clapper, he just got back to one lap down, and now he's going to go a second one. And Andy Margot, actually, I believe he's going to be... He either took the wave around or scored as the lucky dog right there. That's why he's restarting at the back of the field. So right now, 29 cars on the lead lap as we're near the third wave mark of this race. Choose Cone, they have chosen their respective lanes. They're here on the back straightaway. Connor Horn, again, working his way to the high side to try and avoid any, I guess, lane violation penalty. It's worked solid for him as he has control of the field. He's going to do it once again. Green flag is out. Brandon Wilkinson now under assault for second as they looked three wide behind them. Christian Peterson eventually got down in line. Spencer Preeden in the back of him. They still keep it rolling forward. Austin Johnson, now he works into the conversation there, running in third on the high side.
And he's chosen the high side each time, has made it work fairly well so far. As Jake Poulin, who had taken tires, ended up losing control on his own. No caution. We stay green in a single car incident.
Single car spin. It has not been a good night for Jake Poulin, as that's about the third time that he's looped it off of turn 4. But nevertheless, we stay under the green flag. Healthy battle taking place here for third. Christian Peterson wins that. Now Austin Johnson on the outside looking to try to get down to the bottom. Here comes Spencer Preet. He slides off the corner, and no, he's not. He's going to use the wall to save it, and no, now he's stuck in the wall.
Still no spin, though. He might have some time to be able to straighten it back out. No caution flag, and there it is.
And they throw it just before he's going to get lapped by Connor Horn, as it looked like Preet got loose. He used the wall to save his race car, and then eventually kind of got sucked into it. Was able to back up, but unfortunately not before he lost a lot of time in all of his positions. We'll see it one more time here on our replay. Austin Johnson on the top side, Spencer Preet on the bottom, just loses the nose of that race car.
Hear it on the radio that his wheel uncalibrated from that hit right there. And when you have your wheel uncalibrate, Blake, it's very difficult to get back going, especially if, say, it's upside down or you don't have actual control proper to be able to turn the wheel. That's why it took so long, I think, for him to get back going here.
That is a tough issue. Anybody who has had their steering wheel come unplugged, uncalibrated, anything like that, it's definitely not a fun thing to do, let alone when you're sitting on the racetrack. There's cars going by you at full speed, and there's still not a caution flag out. And you could see here, sawing at the wheel, trying to save it, and I think you'll even see the uncalibration right here. We'll probably see some type of unnatural move right there. And yeah, there you see it. He was trying to move around, and looks like he was able to get it back going straight. So yeah, you see those really quick movements there from the wheel. That's obviously when You can see right now he's turning naturally, but earlier on there, it was kind of snapping in a way that was pretty much impossible to do with human hands. So there you see the uncalibration. Now he's able to get it back going straight and out of that wall.
Yeah, tough break there, and he's going to end up losing a lap here, it looks like, trying to get repairs done from that hard hit. But overall, strategy has not really popped up really for too many people still. Again, track position still being chosen by just about everybody. Should be worth noting that Ryan Nawrocki had a 19-second stop on the last caution flag. He is in 19th position, and I'm keeping my eye on him because he has some significant damage on the race car, but if he, say, used a set while we got the damage repair done, which he indeed did, he might be a candidate to stay out here if everyone comes down, say, at halfway.
I really like this call by both he and a couple of drivers back here further back in the field. Michael Frisch, Nathan Rabideau came down pit road, got 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. Brett Pancari, he did it as well. I really like this call. Of course, they're going to lose all their track position. They're going to be in the back. But when everybody kind of decides, all right, it's time to come down pit road, they'll have that track position, and they won't be on tires that are that old. So we'll see if they get that caution flag that they need for that strategy to work out for them. Connor Horn, once again, the race leader. He gets into turn 1 clean. Brandon Wilkinson right behind him. Christian Peterson, a couple of Logitech cars now nose to tail as Michael Cozy Jr. has very slowly worked his way back into this race. He rides right now in 4th.
Michael Cozy Jr. has been just trying to keep his nose clean, I think, all race, and trying to keep the tires underneath him. Started 15th, has just been waiting for his spots and waiting for his moments. Now has a teammate right in front of him, though. Just going to have to be very patient. Just follow the tire tracks. The short track veterans, they fight behind him.
Big fight behind them. David Walsh and Will Norton there. We've seen Will Norton, his car better than anybody in the middle line, trying to make it work. But right now, Walsh just too strong there on the inside. He's able to work his way on by. Here comes a name that we mentioned a lot tonight, Kyle Ely there in the 017 machine, doing a nice job there. He's going to look to the inside of Walsh here in the 3. He gets the door shut on him. Will Norton able to get on down, but they are still great battle behind them. They are still 2x2 between Quarter and the 29 machine of Tedeschi.
And I think Cosman was sent up the racetrack with a bit of door-to-door contact. We Stay Green was able to lock it up. Bit of contact with the outside wall, though, with the quarter panel. But outside of that, the top 5 have been consistently very quick throughout the night. Look at some of these battles, though, bumping and banging some of these doors back here right at the edge of the top 10 on back.
They are right around a single file line that was formed here on the bottom. One car is going to get turned, though. It's the 29 of Tedeschi. Gets a little bit of help there, I think, from Jacob Fisher, as there is a kind of a big stack up there on the bottom as Tedeschi got down in line. Jacob Fisher did as well. And unfortunately, that is going to send the 29 around. Looks like he's the only one that'll be involved in it. Justin Malillo, a near miss there, but caution flag out once again.
Yeah, just a check-up effect, I think, ended up getting him this time. And it was from Jacob Fisher, who ended up giving a little bit of a love tap where he was already over the back bumper of the car in front. Nowhere he can really go. Just right about here, you see, checks up for the car in front. Fisher just gets in the back of him. Already has Worth over his back bumper. Loops it around, keeps the car clean, no damage.
And he's able to scurry on away. Again, not too many cars, just a solo spin here off of turn 4. But what this creates is more strategy for these drivers. We saw another couple guys around on this pit stop come down pit road. Jordan Worth joined that group. Nate Stewart, Will Norton came down. We see Justin Malillo. He's getting 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles as well. Cosman Yaneshu. So several drivers trying to move their way forward and kind of get those tires now. Again, I think if we get a caution in 20 or 30 laps, pretty much the entire field is going to come down pit road. But now you're going to have probably about 10 cars, I'd say, or so that have made their way down, gotten fresh tires. They'll start at the front and make that climb for these guys that are still up front really difficult. Or if we somehow defy the odds and go green for a long time, they may make up some ground with those fresh tires regardless.
And I think it's going to be important for them to get proper positioning for the choose cone too. So that's also going to come into play here, I think. So at halfway, I'm with you where you liked the call last time for some drivers to come in. I'm liking the call from a lot of these drivers now to be able to get the track position. The tires are going to equalize out too. For, say, Doucette, Schwartz, Frisch, compared to Worth, Storr, Norden, and company. So this is going to be a massive big-time call for some of these teams that is going to come into play later on, while the rest of these teams, I think, are saying, you know what, we haven't turned too many laps. They're hoping cautions breed cautions.
You know, you bring up a really good point there when you talk about, obviously, a lot of these drivers will be restarting in the back of the field. They have the opportunity to start further up with that choose cone decision. So I feel like that even makes it easier to come down pit road, get those tires, and try to make up that track position very quickly with those fresh tires. So that's a really good point right there. Again, that's just something that's so new. You don't really think about it as a driver to utilize. And one car doesn't go. That's going to cause a huge wreck. Perhaps a missed shift looked like the culprit as they stacked up huge on the inside line. I think it was a missed shift or something, but it was Christian Peterson, Michael Cozy. Everyone on the inside line just piles in.
And what a moment, and yeah, gonna need to take a look at this one as CP did not go, and his teammate Michael Cozy Jr. was all over the back bumper of him in that situation. Just what in the world? Definitely something happened that broke on that 30.
Yeah, I think that's some type of issue, that maybe a misshift or just went into neutral, couldn't get it out of there. I mean, something obviously went awry, stacked up the entire bottom line, heavy damage. And, of course, he's got his teammate right behind him, so it was nothing intentional. But, unfortunately, Kyle Ely, he has had a very fast machine. He got a significant damage out of that. Jacob Fisher, he's been involved in a couple of incidents. Jonathan Oates was swept up in that as well. I think David Schildhaus may have also gotten some damage in that. Oh, man. Even behind the wreck, you had what almost looked like another mechanical failure. Spencer Preet, I think he saw the wreck. He just stops and spun. Justin Malillo kind of piled into him. You see the 127 spinning there well after the caution flag. So, man, that was an ugly wreck there on the bottom.
Yeah, that is a very weird one, and we're hearing there is a chance that at least one driver may have had the situation where they couldn't see any of the cars happening. Yeah, he just didn't go. Straight up. Just didn't go. I don't think he realized that the air cars were going and didn't see where they were at. So it's a situation where worst time possible for a technical issue to pop up for one car, especially at the front.
That doesn't make it any easier with everything happening right there, just right in the league. Hearing that maybe it was some type of connection issue, maybe he lagged out or something, and he was still there, something he didn't realize. I don't know. Something happened, and regardless, the field suffered the consequences. Just a really unfortunate break there. Put a lot of damage to a lot of really good race cars, but we'll try to keep it moving forward here. We have passed the halfway mark in this race, and it has gone kind of like what we thought it would be. A lot of attrition, a lot of chaos. When are you going to pit? When's it going to be the right move? Can you miss all the wrecks? And I'm sure we're going to be treated to much of the same in the second half. So they have chosen everything here. You see on your screen 7 cautions. Don't think we'll match quite the 18 from New Smyrna, or at least we're not on track to right now. But Connor Horn has led since Ryan Doucette got shuffled back in the field. Green flag is out once again, and man, they are stacked up from third on bat. Matthew Zwack, Tristan Hagenstein leading the pack, but man, 2 by 2 for about 5 or 6 rows behind them, and the caution's out.
And I was about to say, Zwack is in a situation where he's got the freshest tires up towards the front at least here, but Interesting situation here with this caution flag, possibly.
Very interesting situation here, as we'll try to see the cause of it here in just a moment. But nevertheless, trying to get a little bit of information here. Looking through my replay, don't see anybody turned around.
Yeah, we're waiting for confirmation. But either way, tough scenario here as the wave around is Jacob Fisher.
Yeah, he's the wave around, and I'm not sure exactly what it was thrown for, but nevertheless, caution flag out once again. Perhaps some type of issue, I don't know. But nevertheless, we'll work it under caution flag number 8 as we complete lap number 72. And, you know, one thing that has been kind of impressive tonight is the drive up through the field, I think, by Austin Johnson. Started in 7th, has taken the high side a couple of times, but at the end of it, Johnson has found himself in a very good position to try and challenge for the lead here, which, again, aside from Doucette and Connor Horn having control of the restart, there has not been a change up front here.
And we keep on harping on this, but it's track position, track position, track position. They've kept the track position all night long. And Connor Horn has had pace. We've seen it in his respective heat. We've seen it as well when it came to Doucette when he had the track position. It's just been the tricky part of being able to actually complete the passes. The bottom line has been tricky to pry others off the line cleanly. So I think that's just the major factor of where some of the difficulty is coming to play for a couple of these drivers to get some of these moves done.
Trying to get these moves done. By the way, an update here. I think part of the reason, obviously, here in the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals, we want to go to some unique racetracks. Some of the tracks that, if you're running a lot of the top 3 NASCAR series, you don't often see. Obviously, the Arca Menard series competed tonight at 5 Flags. It ended up being Sammy Smith who took down the win in that race. So trying to replicate it here once again. It's actually kind of stunning looking at the brief little highlight on Twitter pulled up on my phone right here, how the lighting looks very interesting here. Same, you can see pretty well in the front straightaway. You get into the corners, it's a little bit darker here as we work back under the green flag. Connor Horn, Austin Johnson, your top 2, but they got a pretty heavy hitter starting to make his way forward through the field behind him. It is Blake Reynolds who has found his way up into the 3rd position.
Haven't talked too much about him in the past little while or so, but that 62 machine has done a solid job keeping itself clean. Just has been trying to keep a nice and calm and conservative race, it seems, tonight. Looking like he's got some speed, though, to maybe battle for 2nd spot here if he can poke his way to the inside here.
We'll see if he can do that. Johnson off the corner. Looks like he has control of it for now. Just waiting for the opportunity to do so and try to make that move is Blake Reynolds. Behind them, though, Matthews Wack able to pull about a car length or just a little bit less over Tristan Hagenstein. Christian Peterson single file. Ryan Doucette, Michael Frisch. And then battle right now to try and stay in the top 10. Ryan Naraki trying to hold off Nathan Rabideau there on the inside.
That's where some of the fresh tires are at the moment, so this is going to be tricky to be able to properly get through this pack here cleanly and precisely as Will Norton went sliding up the track, and they slide off the corner.
Looks like Brian Tedeschi right there on a stack up on the bottom. Perhaps a little bit of contact with Jordan Worth sent him around, and a couple of cars get swept up in it. Andrew Schwartz gets turned around. He gets a little bit of contact, but yet another yellow flag here that was for a wreck off of turn 2. And this is one of those things where a little bit of a stack up is created. 45 gets into Lucas Ploso gets into Will Norton. Check up there on the bottom, Brian Tedeschi, and the 92 end up not able to slow down in time quite for that one.
You see right there, just trying to roll the bottom line is Worth, seeing the opening, gets into the bottom, the left side instead, and Round goes the majority of the drivers involved here. Just another tough break and another short track incident here at this type of circuit we've seen throughout the night, as that stack up significant damage to a couple cars.
Yeah, a lot of damage for some of these drivers. We saw Nate Stewart there. He got into the back of Andrew Schwartz, and the ensuing chaos spins him around. And some words being exchanged over the radio. Interesting to hear the banner going back and forth there.
Yeah, at this point, my eyes are open on, or keeping my eyes peeled on Zwack still. Because at this point, he's in a great spot, I still think. Depending on where he chooses to go, he's got fresh tires. He's the first driver who's gone on through on those. He was gaining time before. It's just a matter of he needs laps, I think, for him to be able to utilize these tires.
Trying to utilize them. We'll see if they can get it done as we continue to work under caution flag. I believe we're up to 10 now. Is that the count? I think we've had a handful here in the last couple of laps, and I was one off. We're at caution, 9 cautions, 44 laps run under the yellow flag out of 83. And you know, Justin, it's so strange because we have just so many different styles of racetracks that we go to in this series. We go to Auto Club last week, 1 caution flag to speak of, just 1 in 100 laps. We had New Smyrna, 18 cautions, and now we're about 2/3 of the way through this race. We're almost at 10. It just seems like here in this series, you're gonna have to be in it for the long haul here at these short tracks this season.
Yeah, short tracks are very difficult to be able to master, and we've seen the reason for it tonight, but gonna be interesting. Here we go.
Connor Horn once again with the race lead. Green flag back in the air. Austin Johnson settles in second. And Blake Reynolds, is he going to be able to hold on to third? It looks like for the moment he will. How about Tristan Hagenstein? He's made his way back up into the top 5. Restarted third that last trip, but he makes it 4th single file. And here comes the Zoo Palace machine. It is not going to be much longer before Ryan Doucette, who again had the race lead. Restart violation put him back. He's in the top 5 now, or just knocking on the door of it, and he's got fresh tires with him.
To swing back to Hagenstein, though, don't forget, he won that photo finish last night, Blake, with David Schildhouse in the Super Speedway Series. It's going to be a big-time night if he can hold on to this position and get himself in position for a win. Remember, that was his first win in FTF. He's looking to go back-to-back here.
And what a thrilling evening that was. If you didn't watch the FTF Saturday Night Super Speedway League, except it's on Friday last night, you're going to want to tune in this Friday. That will be happening here on STM. But plenty of action here out on the racetrack as Blake Reynolds looking to go to second, and he will have it over Austin Johnson there on the bottom. Johnson trying to get back in the line. Hagenstein's not going to allow that to happen as the 27 just inside the 38 is now Austin Johnson sweeps up the racetrack, going to get back down before Ryan Doucette looks to pounce.
Ryan Doucette on 2 tires, keep in mind, not 4 compared to some of these drivers. So still keeping those left sides that were on before to utilize the grip. He's looking like that's going to be helping him right now, and he's actually got some good acceleration off these corners.
Getting very good. Turn through the center there and off the corners as Ryan Doucette to the bottom. Looks like Austin Johnson, as much as we talked about him, he's starting to fade. And again, everybody in line with him there on the bottom has fresher tires. Johnson still on old tires. Doucette, Frisch, Norton, Zwack, they all have fresh tires. So this is going to be really tough for Johnson to try to get back down to the bottom here.
Yeah, he is stuck here. I think Johnson at this point, at least until he can find a hole opens up directly for him. But can the rest of these cars get by Hagenstein is going to be critical here. And yes, it is. Right there, right off the bottom line.
To the bottom goes Doucette as he makes his way by Tristan Hagenstein, and Michael Frisch also going to take advantage, and now Hagenstein going to follow the line of Johnson again. Hagenstein also on those old tires. Another driver who's moving forward through the field. Fresh tires for him, fresher than anybody in front of him. That's Jordan Worth, all the way up to 10th now. He's got about 10 lap better tires rather than the 93 of Nathan Rabideau, who runs directly in front of him. But another one to watch for. Jordan Worth starting to work his way quietly through the field, and you got to remember that that contact there earlier with Tedeschi, something he's going to have to keep in mind here. Obviously, though, Tedeschi a little bit further back. He's in about 15th, so won't have to worry too much about that. Freshest tires on the racetrack, though. Got Fisher all the way back into 17th position.
Yeah, Fisher 1-2 tires. Keep in mind, was that one of those wave cars just a couple cautions ago? As a bit of trouble off the corner. Rabideau, I think, nearly clapped the front stretch wall, and Worth is saying, you know what? I have to go to the outside to avoid him, and that just opened up the door on the bottom side for a move.
It certainly did. Worth going to try to get it done on the outside as he's able to complete that, get back in line. Rabideau, though, slams the door on the bottom. I think the 92 is just a tick faster. It's just whether he can get there. Worth looking for it in 3 and 4. Able to get there is Rabideau way up the racetrack. They look to go 3 wide. Is now Rabideau struggling almost into the outside wall there on the front straightaway.
50 lap both tires right now in that car, just seeming like he's plowing off a couple of these corners here. Keep in mind that a couple of these drivers still were on the tires they started the race with. Connor Horn, Blake Reynolds, Hagenstein, and Austin Johnson. And don't forget about the seat of Christian Peterson, who's in 21st position right now.
They are all trying to hold on to those tires as we've now seen the longest green flag run that we have enjoyed up to this point in the race. And literally within seconds of me saying that, caution flag is out. So, man, I don't think I'm ever going to talk about the length of a green flag run again, as Ethan Quarter and looks like Cosmini and Eschew, they get tangled in 1 and 2. Quarter trying to get it back forward, and he collects it up and then gets back right in front of traffic, and Justin Melillo, nowhere for him to go. He just runs right into the back of him.
Yeah, that's your points leader, who I think had a secondary incident where he at first got hit by Cosman, was able to save the race car. Then when he got back going, was trying to roll on the apron, and that's where the trouble spewed for the caution flag. Here's this initial contact that ends up sending him around at first. Looks like everything's okay. He gathers it up, able to save it on the apron. Gets back going on the racetrack. Thinks, you know what? Everything's going to be fine. Then Melillo at full speed, bang, and your points leader goes into the wall.
Tough break there for the 8-18. We had talked about the fact he got through Daytona, got a great finish in New Smyrna, and didn't fare too poorly at Auto Club either. Obviously the reason that he's leading the points right now. But that is a tough break there. You can see Melillo not exactly sure where he's going to go. When you see a car that's off the pace like that, you never really know if they're going to stick to the bottom. You kind of assume they are. Melillo just running his line. Unfortunately, looks like the 818 sweeps up into him. But now this has created a long enough run that the situation I was talking about earlier has finally come into play. We have total change up front in the tire strategy. Ryan Doucette stayed out on his tires. So did Will Norton. David Schildhaus also stayed out his tires. He came down in pit last time around on lap 70. You have a couple of others that pit around lap 80, and then all the way back in 10th, Austin Johnson, the first car off of pit road that just came down at lap 103. So the top 9 staying out on old tires. This is where it's going to get really interesting. Can the new tires all the way back in about the 10th position make their way forward through the field? And mind you, we have 20 laps to go. Not a lot of time to get it done.
I don't know if there's going to be enough time to be able to get by all these cars. That's the main concern I have, even with the choose cone. So they're going to need a bit of luck, I think, that plays into their hand, some of these drivers. And keep in mind, some of them did take 2 tires, like Johnson, like Frisch, like Wilkinson, to be able to get track position, like Rabideau. So they're going to be in spots where you have worn left sides in some cases and cold right side tires that can make things very tricky here.
We'll see how they can hang on to it. But right now, finally back up front, completes his march. He's going to have to hang on old tires, but Ryan Doucette, I believe, is up to the task as he takes the lead. Andrew Schwartz elects to take the outside. He goes from 6th to 2nd as he tries to get it rolling there on the top side. Green flag is out. Doucette, Norton, and Schwartz able to take advantage of that high side restart. He gets to roll from 3rd. He leapfrogs 4 positions, and now they are side by side around David Schildhouse. Austin Johnson into the back of Jake Poulin. That's going to send the 0-0 around. Johnson trying to save it on the front straightaway, and that is exactly what new tires can do. Johnson rolling, sweeping through, and gets into the back of Jake Poulin, who for about the 15th time tonight has spun off of turn 4, although, Justin, this was not of his own accord.
Yeah, this was something where it happens a lot in short track racing, here on iRacing in particular. You have drivers on older tires in front and the slower rotation speed in the middle of the corner. In turn, the drivers on new tires try and go with the speed they know they go in, and it ends up leading to contacts such as this. Just about everybody who just took the tires ends up either having to slam on the brakes here and check up, or gets some massive damage, at least 7-8 cars minimum, ending up getting some big hits here.
It certainly did. And again, this is why it's such a tough situation to wait this long to try and take those tires. You mentioned the 93, the 62 of Blake Reynolds gets swept up in it. Nate Stewart, Matthews Wax spun around. Tristan Hagenstein gets some damage as well. It's just one of those things when the end of these races come up, we tend to see so many yellow flags, and it just runs you out of time. You don't have the time to use those tires to get back to the front. That's why I love the call that Doucette, Will Norton, a couple of these drivers made to try and take advantage of it, and especially Andrew Schwartz. These late restarts, everybody thinks you want to be on the bottom side for these late restarts. I'm looking at guys who are going to start in the situation that Andrew Schwartz did last time. He was 6th to the choose cone, elects to be the first driver on the outside, and he gets a quick caution after he's able to get back down. He makes up 3 spots doing that. I think that's what the choose cone really brings into here, is if you can get a quick caution, you basically get free spots there on the high side.
Exactly. And Schwartz might be able to get some valuable points here as a result here, as we're coming up to choose cone time once again. I think right now that the bottom line, you do not want to leave it at this point if you've got the track position, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the top again. No, Doucette's going to go on the top to make sure he doesn't have an accidental lane change possibly here after what happened earlier tonight.
He's going to go to the top. The next 3 are going to go back down to the bottom, although he's going to be joined on the high side by Ryan Naraki. So interesting call right here. We'll see if it works out. I believe for Doucette it will. But how can Will Norton, he's on 10-lap fresher tires than Ryan Doucette, hold up? Andrew Schwartz is on 34-lap fresher tires than Ryan Doucette. So again, strategies here all over the place. Austin Johnson is also back in 6th now. He is on the freshest tires in the top 5. Green flag is out, and just as quickly as that's out, the caution flag is now out. Big spin here. Justin Melillo is involved. Actually, no, he was well behind this wreck, but a big spin here in the middle of 1 and 2. Looks like contact. I think Spencer Preet and Kyle Ely get tangled up here.
Yes, believe so, and Ely getting the worst of it, ends up losing his front clip in the process, even more so. As a result here, just set right around in the checkup effect, and good job by Brent Picari to be able to lock it down and just avoid smacking into the car, locked up on the top line, but again, that brings up the caution flag.
This is just helping those drivers stay out on those old tires, although I got to give credit to Austin Johnson. Just a couple of restarts of choosing the high side, and he's already worked his way into the top 5. And obviously with those fresh tires, I think the chances of him potentially going up there and being able to duke it out with those guys continues to get higher and higher. But the lap count continues to get lower and lower. 10, now 9 laps to go, and we're going to continue knocking them off here under caution. It's just going to come down to how long of a green flag run we get. Can the old tires hang on up front if it's short enough, or will somebody like an Austin Johnson or a Brandon Wilkinson who's on those fresh tires be able to make those moves if they have enough time?
I think in this situation, we're in a spot where if we get an air caution flag, it's going to be very difficult to be able to get the victory if you're not Ryan Doucette or Will Norton from this point. For the lap, if we get enough laps though, like say 5 laps, I think there's a chance Johnson could get there. So it all depends on what happens around him and behind him and how many green flag laps we get for if the tires hold up.
Another thing we're going to have to note here, remember a couple of leaders tonight have had issues on the restarts, not changing lanes. It is a rule you cannot change lanes before the start-finish line. And we've seen Sean Butler earlier in the night when he was the race leader, slid up to the top side before the start-finish line. He got nabbed with the penalty. We saw Ryan Doucette. He was leading this race. He had led every lap that he had run here at Five Flag Speedway tonight. And eventually he was tagged with the penalty. That's why you've seen since then the leader has taken the outside line. They have control of the restart. They've been able to get clear of the bottom. But remember, further on back, you cannot do the same. So we'll see Ryan Doucette. He has control of the race. 6 laps to go here from Five Flag Speedway. Are we going to finish it, or do we have a green-white checkered on the horizon? We'll see here. Doucette gets away, perhaps not as much as he would have liked, over Will Norton. They get into 1 and 2. Will Norton off the corner, not able to keep the power down. Doucette launching forward as the cone gets thrust above the turns 3 and 4 wall.
And it looks like Johnson's got a chance to be able to poke his way to the bottom side. As long as it keeps on staying green, he's got the laps, he's got the pace. He's just going to make sure he gets this done cleanly.
You'd imagine that if you're Ryan Doucette, you're happy to see him side by side, but you're not happy to see who's on the outside, as there is a caution in 3 and 4, and we're going to go to a green-white checkered finish as we were coming around that time to take 4 laps to go. Spinner in 3 and 4. It has been a long night for Jacob Fisher. He gets tagged right there. Ethan Quarter and he get together, and Fisher gets spun around in 3 and 4. He has gone to the garage, and we are going to have a green-white checkered finish.
Let's take a look at what happened here in particular, and you can see just sliding up as the 818 into the door, and Fisher not happy with the night. Cosman and Eshu getting some contact as well, and the checkup effect gets turned around. Now we enter green-white checker territory, I believe, at this point. So this may come down to the bumper at this point, if you have one still.
Well, we saw earlier on in the night, you had a situation where I believe it was Lucas Plosel tried to do the bump and run to try and get a transfer spot in our heats earlier on in the night. You have to imagine here, we are at a short track. Will we see the bump and run, somebody try to make a big meaty move into 3 and 4 to try and win this race? A couple of upcoming events, as we mentioned earlier. Again, STN will have coverage of the second split of the eNASCAR iRacing Road to Pro Qualifier Series. That will be on Thursday night. You can watch Top Split over at Podium Esports, and you'll be able to watch Second Split right here on STN. And I mean, definitely split screen both of them, because you should be able to watch me on Podium unless I find a way to hemorrhage like 500 rating here in the next 2 days or so. But otherwise, you should be able to see me on Podium, and of course you want to watch STN, because I think second split will probably be just as entertaining, if not more, than top split on Thursday night. Of course, the FTF Super Speedway Series next Friday night. It was a thriller last night at iRacing Super Speedway. Be fun to see what happens in round 2. That is next Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on STN. And of course, we'll return once again next Saturday night, the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. Be taking place at another short track, the Bull Ring. I'll actually be in Las Vegas next weekend. I'll be at the Bull Ring, but you'll be virtually there racing with us here on STN. Again, that rolls off 10 p.m. next Saturday night right here on STN. So we appreciate you joining us for coverage of this race. Green-white checkered attempt, 1 of 3. Will Norton chooses the outside. Austin Johnson actually chose the bottom from the second position. We'll see if that works. Green-white checkered, Ryan Doucette gets away, and Will Norton able to clear Austin Johnson into 1. That's going to hurt Johnson's chances.
Yeah, and he also clipped the apron on top of things here, so this is not what Johnson wanted to see, and that's not what some of these owners want to see.
A big save right there, and that is going to allow them to get back to the white flag. One more trip around Five Flag Speedway. Ryan Doucette about a car length up on Will Norton. Will we see the bumper? It's not going to be enough from the 25. Ryan Doucette, after a restart violation, is going to rebound and win here at Five Flag Speedway. Ryan Doucette, your winner of the Epic Gaming Network 125.
And a solid recovery drive, to say the very least, for Doucette to be able to come away with the victory tonight. Kept the car clean, wasn't involved in any incidents, and from the penalty, able to recover well as he gets the chance to celebrate.
Doucette going to burn it down here on the front straightaway as he takes down the victory here. And of course, when we were mentioning upcoming events, you definitely don't want to miss the FTF Cup Series. It is now, well, if you're on the East Coast, it's today. But it will be Sunday night live on Bottom Split. You won't want to miss that. Ryan Doucette will certainly be there, as well as a handful of drivers that were in this field. But let's look at the full field rundown here in the Epic Gaming Network 125 from Five Flag Speedway. It was an attrition field race, and it is won by Ryan Doucette. Second goes to Will Norton. Third was Austin Johnson. Ryan Naraki, strong run for the 0-2 machine. He's able to keep it up in the 4th position. Andrew Schwartz, he starts in the back, 38th, and finishes with a top 5. Solid run for the 67 there. Nate Stewart, a great run for that 13, a rebound effort after a tough couple of weeks for him. He finishes in 6th. David Schildhouse brings it home in 7th. Connor Horn 8th. Michael Frisch in 9th. Blake Reynolds, Justin, rounds out the top 10.
Jonathan Oates comes home in 11th. Tedeschi comes home in 12th position. Brandon Wilkinson after his save in 13th. Jordan Worth in 14th. Corder finishes in 15th. Swack in 16th with Rabideau. Also along with Ela. He coming home in 19th. 3 rounds out your top 20.
21st went to Jake Poulin. 22nd was Justin Malillo. 23rd was Andy Margo. 24th went to David Walsh. 25th, Christian Peterson. Brett Punkari was in 26th, 27th to Cosman Ionescu, 28th Jeremy Clapper. He was scored 6 laps down. Jacob Fisher, a tough night for him. He ends 8 laps down in 29th. And Tristan Hagenstein was so strong early in the night. He finishes up in 30th. And then how about this? Winner at New Smyrna doesn't quite go his way tonight. Michael Cozy Jr., 63 laps down, scored in the 31st position. He was the last driver scored aside from Sean Butler, who was 125 laps down. He made an early exit from the race after contact with Andy Margo, and he finishes where his number is in the 32nd position. But why don't we go ahead and catch up with a man who's standing down in victory lane, Ryan Doucette. And Ryan, it was a long night for you. You were so strong all night, qualified on the pole, won your heat race. You were leading every lap. You get the restart penalty. Describe the comeback effort from there.
In a way, I'm kind of thankful I had that restart penalty, honestly. It gave me a little bit of time to like clear my head and think about some strategy calls I could have made. Is my plan once I got back there was just to stay out of all the incidents and just ride around for like the first 50 or so laps. And once I got to a good lap number around halfway, I planned on taking my four. And I wanted to take the four tires at a point where if we got a late race caution like we did with around 20 to go and people decided to pit, I would gain track position now. I didn't expect Connor and Blake to pit. Because I was expecting the race to go at like it did to the end with caution after caution, and that would have made it really hard for me to pass Connor. But him and Blake making that decision made my life a whole lot easier.
It did, but you come out here. You're not running for points in this series, but kind of talk about, I know this is a very competitive series. You have the FTF Cup series coming up tomorrow night. You'll want to be a part of that as well. What is it about FTF that really brings a lot of the strong competition out? It seems like every weekend we're talking about the big names on iRacing winning these races, and you're definitely a part of that.
It's the league management's really well. It's some of the best there is on iRacing, and the competition is almost just as stout. And I know there's not as much competition as I would like to see in these GNS races. I feel like a lot of people are kind of afraid of the short tracks because of the number of cautions we get, unfortunately. But I myself am a big short track fan, and I'll probably be running the GNS series whenever they go to a short track or a road course or just anything unique.
And the other thing I wanted to ask you about, I know we haven't seen it a lot. For one, I know you do some short track racing in real life. Do you have a choose cone where you race? And if you don't, how is it coming into the sim and being able to use that in a race? Because I know that's something that is pretty much unique to FTF. And I know up here in the booth, it's really interesting. And I think for the drivers, it puts a lot of strategy in your hands as well.
I've been in 2 races with a choose cone in real life before, and neither of them I was really in contention for a win for, unfortunately. So I didn't get to really experience the strategy aspect. But I feel like the NASCAR broadcasts, they don't give that choose cone enough emphasis on like how big of an impact it might have on the restarts, because I know when I'm making my decisions on the restart cone, it's usually I look on who's on the outside or who's in what lane and where I am, and it's usually impacted more so on if the guys I like that outside if the guys in front of me are going to be fast. If it's a slow car on the outside, then I'll probably go to the bottom. That's my train of thought when I'm choosing.
Well, it's very important. But Ryan, congratulations on the win tonight. We'll obviously hope to hear back from you soon, and a nice job getting it done because the strategy and the speed was definitely there, and you're able to wrap it up here in victory lane. So nicely done, and we'll let you get out of here.
Thank you, and thank you for putting on the broadcast. I also got to thank all the admins at FTF, my good run of my teammate Will, everybody else for running me clean this whole race, and any of my other Nexus teammates that run the race.
Not a scratch on the car. That's a good way to get it done. Ryan Doucette, your winner tonight, and Will Norton, one of the Nexus Esports teammates that he was mentioning. He brings home second. He's caught up with Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed. And Will, first things first, talk us through how you feel your night went in this one.
Pretty good for where it started. I was having a good time in the heat and talking to people, so I didn't realize there was a choose cone at all. So I kind of just went right in the middle of it. So that kind of put me back for the start of the race itself. So I kind of just did what I could, got spots when I could, took the outside almost every time, because if you're further back than like 8th or 10th, it's almost always guaranteed that you're going to get some spots out of it. So I took that when I could, and yeah, we got our way up to the front eventually and got second again. So I'm overall happy. These short track races are fun.
I was going to say, how tricky was this track tonight? Because for some it seemed like it was tough, but eventually things seemed to settle down towards the end for a bit.
I don't know if for me at least, the track not too tricky. it's more so about just not overdriving it when the tires are cold at the beginning, and just I don't know, just avoiding the wrecks really, not getting right hooked, not getting turned really. It was the best way to get around all the trouble.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
Team Nexus. We've been doing some of these races. They're pretty good time. Help each other a little bit here and there.
Thank you very much for your time, Will.
Thank you.
Will Norden coming home in second, Blake.
Norton brings it home in second, and another driver who we saw take advantage of that choose cone there pretty significantly, Austin Johnson. He's a part of that group that pit late, and really all night, Austin, it seemed like we could find you making up track position, going up there on the high side using that choose cone, especially late in the run when you had those fresh tires.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised how many people at pit didn't take the outside. It seemed like there was a lot of guys in front of me, or not in front of me, but the guys behind me that stayed to the inside, and I was able to go to the outside and kind of got lucky with some of those cautions, so I was able to stay up there. And, you know, to be honest with you, I kind of fell asleep on that last one and didn't choose the outside because I didn't really see Ryan do to the inside last second, so I probably would have had a better chance of winning. But, I mean, I'm still happy with third.
No doubt about it. But just kind of talk about this night again. It's kind of no mistake that pretty much the three cleanest cars on the racetrack are the three that ended up finishing up front. We know these races are chaotic. We see a lot of cautions. I imagine the bull ring won't be much different next week. What is it about coming out of these short tracks where things just seem to fall your way? Or, what are you thinking about in the car when you're thinking going into a race about, this is going to be an attrition race. I'm going to have to keep my car clean.
Well, I think, up front, it's a lot cleaner than the up behind or in the back. A lot of guys are, just kind of complacent, at least in the start of the race, and not trying to make super dumb moves as maybe people in the back would make. I obviously was able to keep my car decently clean, except for that last wreck where I got into Jake. Apologize for that, but overall, I'm glad I kept the car clean, and it was a pretty solid day to finish third.
All right, Austin, anybody you want to give a shout out to? We'll hand you the mic one more time. Here's a chance.
Flying Arrows, my team, we're going to try to attack Road Pro this year, and Johnson Graphics, and yeah, that's about it. You guys for broadcasting, and FTF for having pretty good adminning and good racing for the most part.
All right, Austin, we appreciate it. I hope we'll talk to you again soon, and congratulations on finishing on the last step of the podium tonight.
Thank you.
That completes our top three there. And Justin, it's short track. It's GNS. I think we were treated to kind of exactly what we were expecting to see tonight.
Indeed, attrition became the name of the game as well as strategy. But in the end, Ryan Doucette able to overcome from penalties. An incredible race, to say the very least, overall, with some of the moments.
It was very good, very entertaining, and it should live up to the hype next Saturday night when we come out to the bull ring. Obviously, everything coming up next week, late in the week on STN, kind of a triple header, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying series. The next time you'll see us on air live with second split coverage from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. As Austin Johnson just mentioned, everybody starting Road to Pro on Thursday to try eventually get into the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. So for my broadcast partner, Justin Prince, for Zach Johnson down in the virtual production trailer, I'm Blake McCandless saying so long from the Five Flags Speedway, where we bid you farewell and congratulations to your winner tonight in Ryan Doucette. Good night, everybody.